Chapter 851. Dang Dang Dang. A series of rapid and ear-piercing bell sounds rang in the entire five-element sect. A depressing and tense atmosphere instantly filled the sky and the earth. Countless white mists suddenly rose into the sky, as if coming out of thin air. In an instant, they covered the sky and the earth, wrapping up in all directions and isolating the inside from the outside. Then there was an infinite amount of sword light rising into the sky, like the grains of sand in the Ganges River and the stars in the sky. Then there were 6 gates in all directions, corresponding to life, death, obscurity, light, illusion, and annihilation. Yin and Yang dust sword formation. The mountain protecting formation left by Fangqin Shan to the five-element sect. As long as the people who entered the formation did not fall into the illusion or annihilation gates, life and death were tied to one thought. To enter this formation, one had to enter from the death gate. The death gate was difficult to enter, but it was easy to survive. The life gate was easy to enter, but it was easy to be trapped. The gate of life was in the southwest. It was easy to enter, but hard to get out. It was like boiling a frog in warm water. The gate of illusion was in the center. It had endless changes. It was easy to get lost and trap one's true spirit. The gate of destruction was in the extreme east. It was the key to breaking the formation. The gate of evil was in the extreme south. It was as dark as ink. It was more despairing than the gate of illusion. The Yin and Yang dust sword formation was the sect guarding formation of the Ren school, which evolved the heavenly cycle desolation with the Yin and Yang dust. Once one fell into it, one would not be able to distinguish between east and west, north and south. It was like a headless fly scurrying in it. There was defense and attack in this formation, which could be said to be flawless. The clouds and mist did not seem to change, but in fact they were changing all the time. The clouds and mist were the most subtle things, and it was difficult to distinguish whether they changed or not. The formation was full of killing intent. In this chaotic world, the five-element sect was able to maintain a relatively detached position. In addition to Mosquito Daorin, Fang Qingxue, Fang Han, and other immortal kings, the Yin and Yang dust sword formation also played an important role. If they wanted to destroy the five-element sect, they had to break this formation. Although the Yin and Yang dust sword formation did not have the grand pure Yin and Yang talisman to suppress the formation core, and what Mosquito Daorin and others had arranged was only a relatively weak formation, it was already the top formation in the whole immortal world. It was even better than the 33 heavens formation arranged by the heavenly court of fate with the treasures of the 33 heavens. Not to mention a heavenly lord. Even an immortal king might be trapped to death if he fell into it. This was also the reason why Calamity and the others did not act rashly after knowing that Fangqin Shan was the culprit. Instead, they worked together and gathered all the victims' families. After planning everything, they acted together. This wasn't just to finish the battle in one go. It was also to be safe. What happened? Enemy attack. Who dares to invade our five-element sect? Damn it. For a moment, the entire five-element sect was alarmed, and powerful auras soared into the sky. As long as the disciples were not in a life and death retreat, they all flew out of the cave residence. Oh my God! In addition to the 5 kings, there were also more than a dozen heavenly lords. As for the heavenly lords under them, there were even more disciples who lived as long as heaven and earth. Apart from the battle strength of the immortal king, such strength was almost comparable to the great forces before the outbreak of the immortal world's destiny, and it was close to the top forces like the heavenly court of fate. However, even such a force, at the moment, everyone's face was so gloomy that it could drip water. Because, through the mountain protection formation, they could clearly feel what kind of force and power had come to attack the mountain gate this time. Kill. The Origin Dynasty, the heavenly court of fate, the Holy Land of Truth, the Tiani Mother sect, the Primeval Demon sect, the Divine World, the Buddha realm, the Alien world, almost half of the forces of the immortal world had come. On the one hand, Mosquito Daorin and Fang Qingshan's looting of the treasuries of the major forces was exposed, which made these people want to take revenge against the common enemy. Of course, the hatred was obviously not just because of Fang Qingshan's looting of the treasuries of the various forces. For example, the Holy King of Termination, who possessed Feng Baiyu, was in existence second only to the ancestral Holy King of the Celestial race, but he had irreconcilable conflicts with the Celestial race. The last time he followed Feng Han, he even killed 1 Yuan of the Celestial race and dozens of heavenly lords. In his previous life, the Shakyamuni Buddha Lord, he almost became the leader of the Buddhist sect, but because the boundless Buddha Lord stole the opportunity of creation and even secretly schemed against him, he fell. Moreover, the Five Elements sect actually produced 5 great immortal kings with the power of one sect. Although immortal kings were not as rare as before, it was still somewhat shocking. Moreover, these 5 immortal kings were not ordinary immortal kings. Back then, Fang Qingshan could rely on his own strength to fight against the entire heavenly court of fate. Fang Qingxue was the reincarnation of the Electro-Mother Heavenly Lord, and was once the number 1 person below the Immortal King. It could even kill immortal kings as a Heavenly Lord. Feng Han was one of the 3 heroes of the Fang family, and became an epic immortal king, not inferior to Fang Qingxue. Feng Baiyu was the person whom the Sage King of Termination had entrusted to, the Shakyamuni Buddha Lord of the Buddhist sect, and was not a simple character either. Perhaps only Venerable Ling Long did not have a striking appearance, but she had the Hongmeng Taoist backing her up. Even the Creation Immortal King was wary of this person. Without treasures, even the primordial demon Lord might not be stronger than him. Even though there were only 5 of them, they had the strength to sweep through the entire world. This strength was enough to make the others feel pressured. No one was willing to have an existence that could suppress everyone. Therefore, the masses decided to join forces. At the same time, there were many people who coveted the Five Elements sect, and they had many enemies as well. They coveted the timeless Ark, the stolen legendary item, and the secret of the gate of eternal life. Although they had entered the Golden Age, and immortal kings were said to be endless, they still had no clue as to how to break through to the Immortal King realm and obtain the secret of eternal life. Therefore, Fang Qingxue was still the key. Back then, when Fang Qingxue was just a Electro-Mother, he could fight against the Creation Immortal King head-on, and even use the Gate of Eternal Life to shatter the 33 heavens' utmost treasure of eternal life. Now that he had broken through to the Immortal King realm, if they didn't stop him, how could the others have any hope of breaking through? There was hatred, there was greed, there was fear. How could this not cause everyone to gang up on him? At once, everyone used everything they had. The first to attack was Calamity and the others. It could be said that the Creation Immortal Court and Fang Qingshan had an irreconcilable grudge. It started with the Greater One sect in the mortal world. Then the Five Elements sect ascended and stole the Creation Immortal Court's treasury. They even stole the 33 heavens' utmost treasure of eternal life. Not long ago, the Heavenly Lord of Chaos escaped and ambushed the Thunder Emperor. Fang Qingshan cooperated with Fang Qingxue to take advantage of the situation and cause the Thunder Emperor's Heavenly Lord to fall. If they hadn't crafted the 33 heavens' saint-grade immortal treasure, if Calamity and Eternity hadn't coincidentally broken through to the Immortal King realm, the Creation Immortal Court would have been gone. Even so, the Creation Immortal Court had already fallen and was no longer the top force that shook the heaven realm. Because of this grudge, the Creation Immortal Treasure of eternal life was used to kill. The 33 heaven saint-grade immortal treasure was immeasurable. The sound of crashing waves that could drown the entire sky was heard. There were umbrellas, sabers, swords, pagodas, bows, locks, claws. 33 tyrannical shadows appeared. Chapter 852. The treasures of the 33 heavens were a set of spirit treasures. Each treasure was very powerful, not weaker than ancient heavenly monarchs, comparable to Calamity and the others. This was because after they broke through to Immortal King, they had been refined anew. Although they didn't make the saint-grade immortal artifacts become destinable treasures, they had become divine artifacts, and their power had greatly increased. In an instant, the 33 supreme treasures were linked together, forming a magnificent jade palace in the sky, and it pressed down. In the past, each treasure of the 33 heavens was equivalent to a heavenly monarch. The 33 treasures were equivalent to 33 heavenly monarchs, and they could defeat anyone below Immortal King. It was also because of this that the Fortune Heavenly Court had planned to suppress the Truth Sacred Land and Origin Dynasty. Unfortunately, the heavens didn't allow it. The opening of the ruined city had completely opened Pandora's box, and the chain reaction was like a domino effect. Fortunately, after calamity and eternity broke through to Immortal King, they had refined the treasures anew. Although they hadn't recovered the power of the destinable treasures of the Fortune Immortal King, they had reached the level of divine artifacts. Although one was still equivalent to a heavenly monarch. Previously, there had only been 1 or 2 or 3 new heavenly monarchs. Now, there were at least 5 or 7, comparable to heavenly monarchs like Slaughter and Chaos. Most importantly, when the 33 treasures were connected together, they could also set up the 33 heavens formation. Now, the treasures of the 33 heavens were like the yin and yang dust sword formation. Ordinary immortal kings, without treasures, had no chance of surviving such suppression. As the 33 heavenly gates descended, several more gates followed closely behind. One was the Gate of Origin. This was the treasure of the Origin Dynasty. It was a treasure born from the origin of the world, and it controlled a portion of the laws of the world. If the Gate of Origin descended, it gave people the feeling that it controlled the heavens, that it was supreme, that it could distort creation and control the great Tao. Then the Gate of Origin could allow people to reverse time and space, trace back to the origin, and understand the origin. Origin, creation, universe, destruction, rebirth of origin. Every cycle, every creation of the world, from origin to nirvana, and from nirvana to origin. The cycle repeated itself. Flowers bloomed and withered. Time passed, and the universe was filled with mist and rain, and the seas turned into mulberry fields. Time was that eternal cable. No one knew where they were, infinite but not repetitive. However, the only thing that didn't change was the origin of the great Tao. Other than the Gate of Origin, the universal truth sacred land also brought out the Gate of Profundity. Countless chaos eras ago, there was a creation divine artifact called the Door of Profundity. According to legend, it was formed from the profundities of the heavens and the earth, and it grasped a portion of the laws of the heavens and the earth. It was a door condensed from the profundities of the heavens and the earth. The mysteries of the mysteries were the gates of wonders. However, it was clear that the Truth Dynasty's gate was not that one. Instead, it was a gate of profundity that the Truth Immortal King had created himself. Even though it was only a knockoff, it was not inferior to the Gate of Origin or the Ultimate Heaven Gate in the slightest. In fact, it might even surpass them. Then, Fortune, Origin, and Truth made their moves. The other forces also took out their supreme treasures. The celestial race also took out a gate called the Immortal Slaying Gate. It was a divine item forged by the primogenitor sacred king of the god race. It was almost on par with the sky burial coffin. This was a treasure the sacred king primogenitor had created specifically for the purpose of attacking the immortal world. In a trance, Fang Qingshan actually sensed traces of Zhu Xiansword's aura. When the gate descended, it did not just have a suppressive force. It also had a sharp killing intent. The Tianyi Mother religion took out the Myriad Mother Sword. This was the sword of the Heavenly Mother. It was forged by the Heavenly Mother and the creation Immortal King together. This Myriad Mother Sword had been forged for many eras and was extremely powerful. Anyone who came into contact with it would immediately be turned into the source chi of all things. The primordial demon sect took out the ship of sins. This was a supreme weapon that they used to fight against the gods and Buddhas. It had existed for many eras and was immortal. Huang Fu Bian's Permitha boat could not be compared to it. Of course, this ship of sins was also incomparable to the timeless Arkansas. However, even though this treasure was not the Stone of Three Lives, it was not inferior to the immortal slaying gate or the gate of profundity. The Buddhist sect brought out a Mahavira hall. It was dazzling but did not look tacky. Instead, it looked dignified. Buddhist light overflowed and Sanskrit chants filled the air. The dragon realm took out a dragon pearl. This was a 10,000 dragon pearl. It was forged from the primordial dragon's dragon pearl, which was second only to the ancestral dragon, and 10,000 divine dragons' dragon pearls. Each force had at least one immortal king, and the treasure they took out was at least a heavenly divine artifact. When they joined forces, the power was simply enough to destroy the entire heaven realm. Although the yin and yang dust sword formation was powerful, it could even shatter the entire sky. In a breath's time, the six-path formation gate was covered with dense cracks. It looked like it was about to collapse. Fong Han, Fong Qingxue, Venerable Ling Long, Feng Baiyu, and the others naturally would not allow this to happen. Kill! The few of them shouted at the same time. Fong Han took out the 8-divisional pagoda that he had personally refined. This was the supreme treasure of the ancient heavenly dragon clan. After Fong Han refined it and fused it with many supreme treasures, it was now similar to the 33 heavens supreme treasure in Calamity's hands. It was only a saint-grade immortal artifact, but it was comparable to a heavenly divine artifact. Fong Qingxue also took out her 99 supreme divine city. It was a kingdom made of 81 huge primordial cities forged by heavenly divine artifacts. It contained glory, order, disaster, chaos, eternity, heavenly tribulation, human tribulation, and even creation, origin, truth. All kinds of myths and legends were contained in it. It was somewhat similar to Fong Han's Tao of the era. Each of them was an invincible divine artifact that was in the realm of being one with heaven and earth. Venerable Ling Long and Feng Baiyu also took out their own means. Venerable Ling Long took out the Hongming Palace forged by the primordial Taoist. It was extremely powerful. A heavenly lord would be invincible against all heavenly lords. It contained 6 heavenly meridians. In the hands of an immortal king like Venerable Ling Long, it was almost as powerful as the primordial Taoist. Feng Baiyu took out the god bow that he had forged himself, the dusk arrow. The Zhu god bow was forged from the corpses of the gods after he killed a yuan of God's race experts. The dusk arrow was forged from the deathly dust chi he had collected when the 1 yuan divine clan experts perished. He combined it with the dusk of the gods' great Tao that he had comprehended. If Fong Han's attack was like the 10,000 dragons facing the heavens or the 10,000 Buddhas paying homage, then Fong Qingxue was like the sky full of lightning and the descent of the heavenly punishment. As for Venerable Ling Long, her grand aspirations were endless, resonating with the heavens. When Feng Baiyu's arrow fell, it was like the tolling of a funeral bell. It was time for the world to die. However, following the dusk arrow, powerful divine clan experts perished one after another. Corpses piled up into mountains and blood spilled into the sky. The corpses were dismembered, and the spirits of the dead roared. White bones flew like frightened birds, and the blood flowed like the sea. The sigh of the gods and demons gathered together and turned into a dusk burial song, burying the gods and demons. The dust chi filled the sky. Chapter 853. When Will We Strike? In the depths of the 5 Elements sect, Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Daoran sat opposite each other. A water mirror in front of them clearly projected the current situation of the 5 Elements sect. However, the two of them did not look worried at all. Well, with their cultivation, even if they did not use their treasures with just a group of immortal kings who had just become immortal kings, how could they overturn the world? It was simply the biggest joke in the world. What do you think? Fong Qingshan asked with a faint smile. I can't wait. Mosquito Daoran licked his lips. Good Lord, seeing these people coming out in full force with endless treasures in their hands, if he could keep them all and devour them, he would take a big step forward and be closer to the chaotic essence realm. Mosquito Daoran was a Tautai and a Pishio, and he could not wait to take good things for himself. Naturally, he cannot bear it. If that's the case, then let's strike, Fang Qingshan said lightly. Originally, he came back to wait for the gate of eternal life to appear. After obtaining this treasure, he could continue to pursue the great way in the desolation. However, he did not expect that trouble would come to him even if he did not look for trouble. In this regard, Fang Qingshan could only say that if God wanted to kill him, he would first make him crazy. There was a way to heaven, but you did not take it, and you came to hell. Just as Fang Qingshan was about to strike, Fang Han and the others could not hold on any longer. Although they were powerful and had sharp magic treasures, none of the people who came to besiege the Five Elements sect were simple. In the end, they were outnumbered. First, the yin and yang dust sword formation collapsed, and then they were on the verge of collapse. Just as the Five Elements sect was about to collapse, freeze, accompanied by a voice, an ancient stone bridge crossed the void and suppressed the world. Whether it was Fang Han and the others, or Calamity and the others. Whether it was immortal kings or lords of heaven. Whether it was magic treasures or divine powers. Whether it was the essence of heaven and earth or the laws of heaven and earth. At this moment, all of them were frozen in midair, unable to move at all. Even their eyeballs could not move, and there wasn't even a single look of fear on their faces. It was as though they were stuck in that moment, as though they had been frozen in time. How is this possible? How can the Five Elements sect have such power? The heavenly Lord of Tao and Virtue and the others cried out in their hearts. Even the Fortune Immortal King and the others might not have this ability. This power seems to only be comparable to the door of eternal life summoned by the Electro Mother Heavenly Monarch. Calamity and the others immediately thought of the aura of the gate of eternal life. Not good, damn it, what do we do now? However, most of them still felt a sense of despair. This kind of power was too vast, and even celestial kings were like ants in front of this power. How could they not be terrified? At this moment, it was not just Calamity and the others who were in a state of panic. Even Fang Han, Fang Qingxue, and the others were shocked and in disbelief. When it came to Fang Qingshan, Fang Qingxue, and Fang Han knew that he was not an ordinary person from the moment he rose to power. In the beginning, it was fine. Although he was powerful, they could still keep up with him. They saw a chance to catch up and even surpass him. However, as Fang Qingshan broke their expectations again and again, every time they thought that this should be Fang Qingshan's limit, the next time they saw him, it would be difficult for them to catch up. In the end, Fang Han simply gave up chasing. One had to know that Fang Han was the son of destiny. Heaven and earth were on his side, but he was still beaten black and blue. The reason for this was naturally because Fang Qingshan had gathered the destiny of the universe. Although he was not the son of destiny, even the son of destiny could not compare to him. Originally, Fang Qingxue and the others thought that after breaking through to the Celestial King realm, even if they could not catch up to Fang Qingshan, they would at least be able to close the gap. Although they still could not see through Fang Qingshan's specific cultivation level, they had never thought that he had already transcended. It was not that they did not think in this direction, but that they had not thought about it at all. After all, in the immortal world, no one had ever fully comprehended destiny and refined the gate of eternal life. The most powerful was only the primordial demon lord, the king of immortal kings, who could only be said to be invincible in the same realm, but there was still an insurmountable gap between them and the grand heavenly immortal realm. It was not that they did not think of it, but that Fang Qingshan had exceeded the boundaries of the immortal world. Just like in the original trajectory, the immortal world, at the end of the era, when the destiny exploded, at most there were only heavenly lords. However, now, there was an anomaly like Fang Qingshan, who opened the ruins, allowing many ancient heavenly lords to get the opportunity to break through. For a time, not to mention heavenly lords, even immortal kings emerged like bamboo shoots after the rain. If it were not for the restrictions of the immortal world, they would still be creatures of the immortal world. They were born to be suppressed by the gate of eternal life and the great destiny art. It was not impossible for them to get the opportunity to break through to the grand heavenly immortal realm. Unfortunately, it was too difficult to achieve this before breaking the shackles of the gate of eternal life. Fang Qingshan, on the other hand, had long surpassed the constraints of a great thousand world because of his destiny. You shouldn't have come. Fang Qingshan walked out slowly. If they didn't come, Fang Qingshan wouldn't try his best to harvest them. There was no need. It was too much of a waste of time. With this time, he might as well create the primordial chaos chapter of the Tao verification art. However, since they had walked into the trap, Fang Qingshan didn't mind catching them all in one fell swoop. No matter how small the mosquito was, it was still meat, wasn't it? But Fang Qingshan stretched out his hand and drew a circle, sacrificing his natal divine ability, the 5 elements bracelet. The 5-colored brilliance was magnificent, and the 5 spiritual beads shone in the sky. There was a stripe sweeping across, and in an instant, the calamity and the others who could not move were captured. Forget it. In that case, let's go get the half of the world tree for the world tree clone first. Fang Qingshan originally wanted to wait quietly for the gate of eternal life to appear before taking action. Now that such a scene had happened, he might as well go all the way. First, he would get the half of the world tree. Then he would take Fang Qingxue and the others to the world beyond worlds. Although he couldn't calculate the specific location of the gate of eternal life. But maybe Fang Qingxue and Fang Han could. Fang Qingxue had comprehended a bit of fate, and she had the scales of fate that he had given her. Fang Han was the son of the fate era favored by the heavens and earth. If there was no Fang Qingshan, the universe would be destroyed and the gate of eternal life would reappear. Fang Han would defeat all opponents, enter the gate of eternal life, and completely transcend. But now, Fang Qingshan not only wanted to transcend, but also wanted to collect the gate of eternal life. It wasn't too difficult to do this. After all, Fang Qingshan was someone who had the treasure fall coin. With the current power of the treasure fall coin, it could even drop a natural supreme treasure. The only problem was that the gate of eternal life was not a simple natural supreme treasure, but a Hongjun Tiandao divine artifact of the world of eternal life. The Hongjun Tiandao divine artifact of the vast thousand worlds was not necessarily more powerful than a natural supreme treasure. But the reason why the Hongjun Tiandao divine artifact was Hongjun Tiandao divine artifact was that it could mobilize the power of the entire world. Chapter 854. During the desolation, Hongjun distributed the treasures after the Purple Cloud Palace's 3 lectures. Whether it was the 3 treasures of opening heaven, the cauldron of heaven and earth, or the immortal extermination sword formation, they were all given out. Why did they still keep the creation jade plate? Logically speaking, the broken creation jade plate was not much stronger than the 3 treasures of opening heaven. In terms of attack and defense, it was not as strong as the 3 treasures of opening heaven. This was because the creation jade plate was a divine artifact of Hongjun Tiandao. Hongjun Tiandao's divine artifact might not be the strongest, but it was the most compatible with the great Tao of the world. In this world, not only would one be suppressed by the heavens and earth when fighting against a Hongjun Tiandao divine artifact, but the Hongjun Tiandao divine artifact could even unleash power beyond that of a Khanate supreme treasure due to the power of the world. Under such circumstances, the gap was obvious. This was also why Fang Qingshan did not act rashly. Instead, he went to the journey to the West World and planned to break through to the grand heavenly immortal realm, transcend fate, and then advance to the timeless Arkansas. He wanted to use absolute power to suppress the variables. Otherwise, if something unexpected happened, he might fall short of success. Comfort your disciples and make some preparations. I'm going to the divine realm. When I come back, we'll go to the world beyond worlds. At that time, I'll need Big Sister and Fong Han's help. Fong Qingshan handed the suppressed Heavenly Lord and Supreme Treasure to Mosquito Dowrin. He turned around and smiled at Fong Qingxue and the others who seemed to be in a daze. You want us to find the whereabouts of the door of eternal life. Hearing Fong Qingshan's words, Fong Qingxue took a deep breath, suppressed her shock, and raised her eyebrows. Yes. Fong Qingshan nodded and did not hide it. At this time, Fong Han also came back to his senses and asked, Third young master, have you broken through to the immortal king realm and attained eternal life? Hearing this, Venerable Ling Long and the others widened their eyes and looked at Fong Qingshan without blinking. They held their breath and concentrated. Fong Qingshan chuckled and explained, It's true that I've broken through to the immortal king realm. It's just that the words about attaining eternal life are a little exaggerated. Since you've entered the ruined city, you should know how vast the heavens are. The so-called eternal transcendence in this world is merely the grand heavenly immortal realm. Grand Luo aside, even the demi-saints and primordials above wouldn't dare to claim eternal life. Perhaps only those who have reached the level of the everlasting lotus would be truly everlasting. As Fong Qingshan spoke, he could not help but let out a faint sigh. No matter how ferocious the chaos demon gods were, they couldn't escape the great tribulation of creation. Pangu, on the other hand, was almost comparable to a great Tao and possessed 3 chaos supreme treasures, yet he still couldn't avoid death. The road is long and arduous, but I will search high and low. If he didn't reach the eternal realm, he might fall short of success. Although everyone had already sensed it from Fong Qingshan's attack, it was still difficult for them to accept it when they heard it from his mouth. Their minds went blank. He knew that the transcendence of this world was only the grand heavenly realm, and that there were even more realms above it. Life was limited, but the Tao was boundless. But at the end of the day, they were still under the influence of their own world. After all, for so many eras and heroes, they were all stuck at the immortal king level. Now, someone had broken through. Moreover, it was someone they were familiar with, someone they had once pursued. Even with their temperament, they were shaken for a moment. Fortunately, they were no ordinary people, and Fong Qingshan had already surprised them far beyond their imagination. As such, they soon calmed down, although they still looked at Fong Qingshan with a complicated expression. After all, the grand heavenly realm and transcendence were what they had been pursuing in the past and present. Even so, young master is already ahead of everyone else. Fong Qingshan smiled faintly and did not say anything else. Their horizons were still too low right now. When they head to the myriad worlds in the future, they would know that the grand heavenly realm was only the starting point. If you've already transcended, why are you still looking for the gate of eternal life? Fong Qingxue suddenly asked at that moment. Big sister, you mustn't underestimate him. Without hiding anything, Fong Qingshan revealed the truth about the gate of eternal life. This is a connate utmost treasure. It's a rare treasure, even in the myriad worlds. If it's in other worlds, even the mixed essence saints would have to fight for it personally. I see. Fong Qingxue and the others nodded their heads in understanding. Although they knew how precious the gate of eternal life was, none of them showed any greed. They knew how much power one had and how much benefits one could enjoy. While the gate of eternal life was great, it wasn't something they could possess. First of all, this treasure had already been decided by Fong Qingshan. Even if Fong Qingshan didn't want it, they wouldn't be able to get it. And even if they got it, they wouldn't be able to keep it. A man's wealth was his own ruin. All right, you guys go get ready. I'll be back soon. As soon as he said that, a divine light flashed beneath Fong Qingshan's feet. In a flash, it pierced through space and time, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. This was not a magical power, but the otherworld bridge. In terms of quality, this spirit treasure was at most similar to the sun and moon pearl. The reason why Fong Qingshan integrated it into the timeless Arkansas. What he valued was that its potential was not small. It contained the law of space, which was one of the top laws among the 3,000 great Tao. Time was respected, and space was king. Moreover, he could also tear space and increase his speed. As for the suppression of earth, wind, water, and fire, it was just a side effect. In a great world like desolation, or in the chaos, the speed of the otherworld bridge did not seem to be so fast. But in the immortal world, as long as there were coordinates, it could be reached in 1,000th of a second. Fang Qingshan had been dealing with the god race for a long time. Back in the secular world, when he was still in the mystical land, he had already gained a lot of benefits by killing the god race. Later, he took advantage of the great tribulation of the god race to unify the black-yellow great world, and he was blessed with luck and merit. In the process of fighting with the masters of the god race, Fang Qingshan had many times felt that they opened the void god world passage, either to bless themselves or to escape. But this was the first time he came to the void god world. The void god world, outside the heaven realm, was the lair of the god race, which was created by the first holy king of the god race. At the end of every era, the world would be destroyed. After each nirvana, the first holy king of the god race would recreate a new divine world in the chaos. Moreover, as the first holy king became stronger and stronger, the origin of the divine world became stronger and stronger, and the subsequent god race also became stronger and stronger. Fang Qingshan took a step and stepped into the divine world from the heaven realm. Looking at it, it seemed that it was not smaller than the heaven realm. It was vast and boundless. Unlike the entire continent of the heaven realm, it was somewhat similar to the sun and moon void of the black-yellow great world. It was a galaxy universe, but he saw a huge, boundless, impregnable planet hanging in the sky of the divine world. It was noble and graceful. Everywhere showed the flavor of ruling the heavens. Chapter 855. What a divine realm! As expected of an existence second only to the heavenly realm. Even the black-yellow great world at its peak was probably no better than this. Fang Qingshan could not help but sigh as he looked at the countless planets in the divine realm. He could clearly sense that there were billions of celestials living on each planet, forming many clans, factions, countries, tribes, and alliances. A planet with billions of planets added together was a scene that could be imagined with just a pile of humans. Moreover, these people were not ordinary people either. They were at least in a mystical realm, and most were experts above the immortal realm. Their core forces were at least golden immortals. Heavenly lords, who lived as long as heaven and earth, were everywhere. Heavenly monarchs and immortal kings, on the other hand, seemed to be hidden in the depths of the divine realm and were rarely seen. If this power were to explode, the heavenly realm would immediately be occupied by the celestials. The heavenly court, origin dynasty, and the sacred ground of truth would all fall. Of course, the battle between races mainly depended on the gap between the strongest. Not the quantity, but quantity caused qualitative change. The power of the celestials living on millions of planets gathered together into a torrent of mystical arts and immortal arts that could withstand the attacks of ordinary heavenly monarchs. Moreover, the celestials were not without experts. Putting aside the sacred king, the heavenly consort, and the 7 ancient emperors had all become immortal kings. Apart from that, the biggest difference in the divine realm was the repulsive force. The divine realm was different from the heavenly realm. Here, the power of gods was the main force, and other forces would be suppressed here. Even those with low cultivation and no special means could die in the face of the erosion of the power of gods. Of course, it did not work on Fang Qingshan. With his current cultivation, it was nothing even if he tore the divine realm apart, let alone being suppressed by the power of gods. After looking around, Fang Qingshan's eyes were instantly attracted by the world tree in the center of the divine realm. It was not just because the world tree was too big to not be noticed, but because the clone in the innate small world almost went berserk when it sensed the aura of the world tree. Not bad, not bad. With this half of the world tree, the clone will definitely have no problem breaking through to the zenith heaven realm. Fang Qingshan used to think that the so-called half of the world tree was really just half. But now, it seemed that at least 2/3 of it was intact. What's more, the world tree itself was very powerful. It was also because the ancestral sacred king refined it into the void god realm's heavenly pillar, an important treasure that stabilized the god race's fate. As such, Fang Qingshan felt that this half of the world tree was not much inferior to the half he had obtained from the Godfiend treasury. This half of the world tree stood in the deepest part of the divine realm. It blotted out the sun and covered the sky, supporting the sea. The world tree itself was no smaller than the Fortune Heavenly Court's 100,000 prefectures. What's more, Fang Qingshan also noticed that the world tree was densely packed with otherworldly planes that resembled the camel plane. The branches, leaves, even the bark, and even the grain of the growth rings were all planes. The world tree truly lived up to its name. It contained countless worlds within it. Just as Fang Qingshan was marveling at the world tree, it wasn't just the world tree clone. The other half of the world tree that supported the void god realm also sensed an aura that came from the same source as the world tree. No one here expected this, nor did anyone suppress it. Thus, the other half of the world tree began to move violently. Boom! The entire void god realm was instantly in trouble. First, the various planes attached to the world tree were shaken off as the world tree rose from the ground, colliding with each other and causing a great destruction. Secondly, the world tree was not just the origin of all wood. A world. Since it was a world, it naturally contained the 3,000 great Daos and elementary Daos. As the world tree moved violently, the laws became chaotic. At times, there would be snow and storms that would freeze the world. At times, there would be 10 suns in the sky, and several planes would be scarlet. At other times, there would be sand and pebbles flying everywhere. At other times, there would be lightning and thunder, and dark clouds would cover the city as if a divine punishment had descended. What's going on? Why is the world tree moving? Oh no, save me. The world tree's movement was a disaster for the Shan clan. The primogenitor sacred king had refined it into a treasure to stabilize the god realm. No one knew how long it had been, but there had never been any problems. The Shin clan had long since let down their guard against the world tree, which had once caused them to pale at the mere mention of it. Because of this, the sudden disaster had caused them to suffer even more severe losses. Impudent. Freeze. Fortunately, the Shun clan was not without a leader. The world tree was about to rise from the ground. Suddenly, strands of hair shot out from the void, each like a giant dragon. 10,000 feet of white hair, as long as fate. In an instant, the strands of hair transformed into tens of thousands of talismans. A huge fate character appeared in the air, suppressing the sky above the world tree. Following that, a woman walked out with lotus steps. Her face was beautiful, and her eyes shone with the light of wisdom. This was the light of wisdom that could determine victory from 1,000 miles away. This person was the Shun clan's heavenly consort, an existence second only to the primogenitor sacred king and the sacred king of termination. Following that, the 7 primordial emperors of the Shun clan and the rest joined forces to unleash their most powerful treasures. They cooperated with the heavenly consort to suppress the world tree. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Just give it to me. Under the suppression of the heavenly consort and the rest, the world tree's struggles became weaker and weaker. But before the heavenly consort and the rest could heave a sigh of relief, a voice rang out in the void. Oh no! The heavenly consort and the rest's hearts skipped a beat. Unfortunately, they had no time to react. A ring of light, even larger than the world tree, descended from the sky. It was almost tangible, flashing with 5-colored light as it fell toward the world tree. In an instant, the light dimmed, and the world tree disappeared without a trace. Oh no! The world tree. Who's causing trouble? The heavenly consort and the rest were enraged when they saw the world tree being stolen right under their noses. This was not just a slap in the face, but also because the world tree was extraordinary to the Shun clan. It was once the Shun clan's nemesis. Apart from the heavenly consort, everyone else was completely suppressed by it. If it fell into the hands of an outsider, it would be a terrible disaster. Fortunately, the ancestral sacred king had cut off the world tree and used it to stabilize the divine realm, suppressing the Shun clan's providence, turning disadvantage into advantage. After an epoch, the Shun clan had already gotten used to the existence of this half of the world tree. They were used to the world tree suppressing providence and assisting their cultivation. Now that the world tree had been taken away by Fong Qing, they instantly felt a lot more empty in their hearts. More importantly, the divine realm that had lost the world tree suppression was even more chaotic than when the world tree had gone berserk. It was like the great Shaman Demon War before, and then the fall of Mount Buzhou. Chapter 856. Before the Tree of World, the divine realm had been fine. After the Tree of World, the divine realm had become more stable and vast. But after having it and then losing it, the situation was very different. It was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. Without the Tree of World, the divine realm was like without the desolation of Mount Buzhou. The whole world seemed to be collapsing. Freeze! Seeing that the divine realm was about to collapse, the heavenly concubine and the others naturally wouldn't allow such a situation to happen. Everyone exclaimed softly, and a majestic palace suddenly appeared in the void. The Pantheon Palace. It was a treasure made entirely of all kinds of precious materials, and even the divine objects in the gate of eternal life. There were pictures of animals and fairies, and it exuded the aura of time. Divine power enshrouded it. Countless gods surrounded it, and there were goddesses dancing. The sound of drums and harps could be heard. Inside the Pantheon Palace, thousands of thrones could be seen scattered around, arranged according to a certain orbit. It ruled the universe, looked around, and suppressed everything. It was a treasure even more powerful than the immortal Slaying Gate. The Pantheon Palace was like the Pantheon Palace that Fong Qingshan had established after the establishment of the Eternal Kingdom. But the Pantheon Palace was Fong Qingshan's enfeeblement, and the Pantheon Palace was the ambition of the gods. As long as you broke through the Heavenly Lord realm, you could enter. The divine race had existed for a long time. In every era, there would be some Heaven Monarch realm experts, and they would continue to exist like this. One day, there would be tens of thousands of heavenly lords. When every throne in the Pantheon Palace was filled with heavenly lords, not only would the true glory of the gods come, but the power of the Pantheon Palace would also surpass the acts of nature and catch up to the gate of eternal life. Although the gods were powerful, they were born in the secret realm and had a long lifespan compared to other races. But even immortal kings were not immortal, let alone heavenly lords. So in every era, although the gods could produce heavenly lords, there would also be heavenly lords who died. Including the heavenly concubine and the emperor god, the gods had only accumulated a few dozen heavenly lords, or at most 100. Even so, it could be said that they were the strongest force under the heaven realm. However, compared to the position in the Pantheon Temple, it was undoubtedly a drop in the ocean. However, things were different now. With Fong Qingshan's opening of the ruins, with Heaven Realm, and even the entire immortal world in chaos, with the arrival of the end of the era, with the explosion of luck, the rich heritage of the god race finally ushered in an unprecedented growth. The lords of heaven emerged like mushrooms after the rain. 1, 2, 10, 100, and even nearly 1,000 heaven monarchs. The heavenly concubine, Sakura, and the others had even advanced to the immortal king stage. Because of this, although Fong Han, Feng Baiyu, and even the heavenly monarchs who died during the siege of the Five Elements sect, the Shun clan's foundation was not damaged at all. Because of this, the Shun clan's foundation was not damaged at all. Although it still did not meet the expectations of the divine race, it still made the Pantheon Palace unbelievably powerful compared to the Heaven Monarchs, who had filled almost 10,000 palaces. In this way, the power of the Pantheon Palace would be considerable. It really had the power to suppress the world. With the Pantheon Palace, the shaking divine realm finally stabilized, and the heavenly concubine and the others were free to deal with the culprit, Fong Qingshan. Kill. The crowd was rioting. First Fong Han, then the Holy King of Termination, and now Fong Qingshan. This was simply treating the divine race and the divine realm as soft persimmons that anyone could pinch. If they didn't use some powerful means, they would think that the tiger was a sick cat. The heavenly concubine, the 7 ancient god emperors of the divine race, and others all made their moves. Fate, 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 fate. Flowers bloom, flowers fall, flowers return to dust. The heavenly concubine took out the world tree that she had just suppressed, which was also the origin of the word fate, from the gate of eternal life. The power of the word fate was incredible. Everything in the world was finally condensed because of the involvement of fate. It was like karma, but not karma. The power of the word fate, just one word, had surpassed the 5 elements ancient characters and the 6 words mantra. Pantheon Palace, suppress. Sakra heaven, Howli heaven, Yama heaven, Huayu heaven, Mahasvara heaven, Yao Yao heaven, Yu Yu heaven. The 7 ancient god emperors activated the Pantheon Palace that had just suppressed the divine realm. The palace shook and rose into the sky, looking down on the billions of planets in the divine realm. It was like the heavenly court of the Golden Arches. 10,000 thrones appeared out of nowhere. The Pantheon Palace, with thousands of heavenly lords, was at most similar in quality to the 33 Heavens Saint Great Immortal artifact that Calamity and the others had refined. It was close to a divine artifact, but not a destinable treasure. But in terms of power, it was definitely not inferior to a destinable treasure. If the Pantheon Palace was filled with heavenly lords, it might even surpass destinable divine artifacts and catch up to the gate of eternal life. This supreme treasure was just like the Pantheon Pagoda. Legends had it that the Pantheon Pagoda was also a treasure that had been passed down since the ancient times. Similar to the 8 divisional pagoda, it contained the innate spirits of nature within it. The more spirits there were, the more powerful the Pantheon Tower would be. The Pantheon Palace was the same. The more heavenly lords there were, the more powerful the Pantheon Palace would be. Good. What a great Pantheon Palace. Seeing this scene, Fong Qingshan could not help but applaud. Before he came to the divine race, he had expected something to happen. But with his cultivation, it could be said that he was already unstoppable. In his mind, unless the primogenitor Holy King of the divine race woke up and resurrected with the axe of nature in his hand, there might be some hope. But that was all. He did not expect that before the primogenitor Holy King appeared, the appearance of the Pantheon Palace had already given him a big surprise. Good heavens, if it were not for the fact that the divine race did not know the Zodiac star array, or a peerless array like the 10,000 Immortals array, he might really have to retreat without using the timeless Arkansas. Unfortunately, the level of the immortal world limited their development, not only in the cultivation realm, but also in the 100 arts of cultivation. Suppress. Fong Qingshan said softly. But then a formation map in Fong Qingshan's Naiwan Palace broke out of his body at a speed visible to the naked eye. The formation unfurled like a painting scroll, faintly resembling a peacock spreading its tail. It was multicolored and gorgeous. There was a continuous sound of the heavens inside, and the unfolded area, the entire space, was completely controlled by the formation map, turning into an independent world. 5 doors emerged from the formation map, hanging in the 5 elements. In an instant, waves of invisible energy tightly sealed every inch of the void. Waves of pressure, like a tide, rolled over the people of the divine race. So much so that the heavenly concubine and the 7 celestial emperors had to enter the Pantheon Palace and use this treasure to deal with this terrible pressure. Chapter 857. Break for me. The heavenly concubine and the others were experienced people who had been tested on the battlefield for a long time. The moment they sensed the power of the formation diagram, they immediately hid in the Pantheon Temple and activated the treasure with all their might. nearly 10 immortal kings, and nearly 1,000 heavenly lords, although they were only at the beginning. But no matter how bad they were still immortal kings and heavenly lords, the mainstream top strength of the immortal world. Coupled with the Pantheon Temple, the more people there were, the more powerful it was. Everyone worked together, summoned the Pantheon Temple, and slammed into the surrounding void barrier. This collision was earth-shattering, and in a trance, it seemed that Feng Qingshan's timeless arc Chaos Horn had made such a move. Perhaps even the immortal world would be smashed open by the impact, and it might even be destroyed. If an ordinary immortal king were to be hit by the impact, they would most likely die on the spot. Even Grand Mist, Creation, and the others would have no choice but to dodge. However, when it landed on the barrier, it was like a breeze blowing across the surface of the water, causing ripples. Not to mention breaking the barrier, it didn't even cause a big movement. It seemed that the formation space was impregnable, and as the space shrank, the barrier was constantly strengthening. In this regard, the heavenly concubine and the others were naturally unwilling to be trapped. Where there is a will, there is a way. Since one time didn't work, then 2 times, 10 times, 100 times. They believed that with the power of the Pantheon Temple, there was no barrier in the entire immortal world that could not be broken except for the gate of eternal life. Unfortunately, reality ruthlessly gave them a loud slap in the face. Boom, boom, boom. Despite the sound of the golden bell and the rain falling on the banana leaves, it was endless. However, it was still of no avail. And the more they collided, the greater the rebound force, and the space was constantly shrinking. A turtle in a jar. Putting aside the fact that Feng Qingshan's cultivation was not something they could compare to or even imagine. This formation diagram alone was not simple. This was not the 9 bends Yellow River Formation, not the 10 Absolute Formation, and not the Zodion Star Formation. It was the 5 Elements Formation. After Feng Qingshan broke through to the Zenith Heaven realm, his body once again nurtured a congenital life, divine ability. As Feng Qingshan's cultivation improved and his understanding of the 5 elements Great Tao increased, the power of his divine abilities, especially his natural divine abilities, naturally rose. Be it the 5 elemental bracelet, 5 elemental all, or 5 elemental formation, although they were all divine abilities, their power and quality were not inferior to Khanate numinous treasures. The only difference might be that Khanate numinous treasures had carriers, but Khanate mystical powers did not. However, as the power of the divine ability increased, it could materialize sooner or later, turning illusory into reality and becoming a divine ability, supreme treasure. In this regard, the Buddhist sect had done a good job. Due to the lack of treasures in the West, Zhuani had invented a method to refine supernatural powers into spiritual treasures. The golden body of Buddhism, the 3 heads and 6 arms, the necklace umbrella cover, the flower pot fish intestines, the treasured file, the golden bell, the golden bow, the silver halberd, and the banners were all the manifestations of divine abilities. Let's not talk about this for the time being. Compared to the 5 elements bracelet's all-encompassing ability, the 5 elements all's all-destroying ability. The 5 elements formation diagram was clearly more powerful. Since the 5 elements formation was a formation diagram, it naturally contained a powerful formation. The major 5 elements Khanate formation. Of course, this formation was not perfect yet. It was only a formation diagram based on what Feng Qingshan had seen, heard, thought, and understood. It was just like the formation that Kong Xian had cast. However, compared to Kong Xian's formation, it was more perfect. Stones from other mountains could be used to improve jade. Feng Qingshan had seen Kong Xian's major 5 elements Khanate formation. In addition, he had the 5 elements spirit root, 5 elements spirit pearl, and floating flame flag. Naturally, the major 5 elements Khanate formation would be more perfect. As for the major 5 elements Khanate formation that was comparable to the Zodion star formation, it would require Feng Qingshan's understanding of the 5 elements Tao to continuously perfect this divine ability. Of course, The simplest way was to gather the connate 5 elements flags and obtain the real formation diagram. Then, he would inscribe the formation diagram's Tao runes on the divine ability. That way, the divine ability would be able to reach phenomenal success. However, that was impossible now unless Fong Qingshan headed to the Desolation World immediately. Still, even if it was an incomplete version, even if he did not use the Timeless Arc, this divine ability alone would allow him to challenge demi-saints. Normal demi-saints could only sit and wait for death if they did not have an ultimate treasure. While Fong Qingshan had left many Buddhist demi-saints in a sorry state back in the journey to the West World, there were only normal demi-saints here. The former, however, was not his own power. Instead, it was the power of the Timeless Arc and the Zhou Eon star formation diagram. Demi-saints. While they were demi-saints, they were still saints. All beneath the saints were ants. The difference between a Grand Luo and a demi-saint was even greater than the difference between a golden immortal and a Grand Luo. That was why it was already quite impressive for a Grand Luo to fight a demi-saint. Damn it! Kill him! Kill him! It's over. It's all over now. What do we do? What do we do? Impossible. How could he be that powerful? An aura of despair was spreading in the Pantheon Palace. Even the heavenly consort was no exception. She no longer had the Pearl of Wisdom. In the face of absolute power, wisdom was completely useless. Although the people who went to crusade against the 5 Elements sect had not returned, and even the Immortal Slayer's Gate had fallen, and they already knew that Fong Qingshan was not to be trifled with, seeing was believing. Without really seeing it with their own eyes, it was really hard to imagine that Fong Qingshan was powerful to such an extent. This level of power had completely exceeded their expectations. Even when facing the ancestral Sacred King, they probably did not feel this way. At this moment, the people of the celestial race were so helpless and desperate that they had never felt before. The formation diagram was like a cosmic black hole in the starry sky of the universe. From the black hole, a terrifying, devouring force was transmitted, and the Pantheon Palace was being devoured bit by bit. Once they could not move in the end, it meant that they had completely fallen. However, what could they do now? The Pantheon Palace, thousands of heavenly lords, this was almost the most powerful force in the celestial realm, and even the entire immortal world's heavenly realm. If they could not fight against Fong Qingshan, what else could they do? Sacred King, save us. In despair, someone began to pray. This was like a chain reaction. The previous heavenly lords prayed at the same time. Even the heavenly consort, Sakura Heaven, and the other immortal kings were no exception. Now, other than the ancestral Sacred King, they really could not think of any other way, although they did not believe that the Sacred King could save them. Firstly, in their memories, the ancestral Sacred King was still asleep. Secondly, the ancestral Sacred King was not in the celestial realm. Even if the ancestral Sacred King woke up, distant water could not quench the thirst. What's more, even if he woke up and arrived, what could he do? The power of the Pantheon Palace was not much weaker than that of the ancestral Sacred King. It was just the roll of faith. It was like trying to save a dead horse. It was like grabbing a life-saving straw and not letting go. Deliberately planted flowers do not bloom. Inadvertently inserted willows grow shade. Accidents often happen at the most unexpected times. They did not have much hope at all, but the reality exceeded their expectations. Chapter 858. Buzz. Just as the Protoss were about to be wiped out in one fell swoop, something strange happened. A ray of green light flashed by, so fast that no one could react. Even Fong Qingshan did not expect this to happen. An axe light, which was so sharp that no one could catch its trajectory, chopped down on the 5 Elements formation diagram at lightning speed. There was a ripping sound like silk being torn. A hole was torn in the originally flawless formation diagram. For something like a formation, if one wanted to break it after being trapped in it, they would need to possess power that far surpassed the limits of the formation. Otherwise, they would have to find the eye of the formation. On the other hand, outside the formation, it was much easier to tear a hole and create a flaw not to mention breaking the formation. Survival in a desperate situation. Compared to the four joys of life, this kind of survival in the midst of despair was what truly made people feel great joy. The heavenly consort and the rest were overjoyed. Although they did not know what was going on, they did not dare to be negligent. This was such a great opportunity to escape. It would be intolerable if they missed it. The moment the hole appeared, the heavenly consort and the rest flew out of the Pantheon Palace and stayed far away from Fang-Qing-Shan. They could not afford to offend him, but they could hide. However, Fang-Qing-Shan did not have the slightest intention of paying attention to them. Instead, he set his sights on the depths of the Protoss race, where the world tree was placed. I did not expect the Protoss progenitor Sage King to have already awakened. I did not expect him to launch a sneak attack. I am truly disappointed. Fang-Qing-Shan said indifferently. Progenitor Sage King, the heavenly consort and the rest, who were already prepared to escape, were like a sudden clap of thunder. They had prayed and summoned the progenitor Sage King without any expectations. It was just a form of psychological comfort. After escaping, they did not think about what was going on. Only when they heard Fang-Qing-Shan's words did they realize that the progenitor Sage King had made a move. For a moment, the heavenly consort and the rest were both happy and worried. They were happy that the progenitor Sage King did not abandon them. He had heard their prayers and helped them. What they were worried about was that Fang-Qing-Shan, the great demon king, was too powerful. Even if they had blind confidence in the primogenitor sacred king, they did not think that he could defeat Fang-Qing-Shan. But if the ancestral Sage King failed, or even perished, it would be a fatal blow to the entire god race. I never expected that a variable like you would actually appear at the end of this era. It's simply inconceivable. Regardless of what the heavenly concubine and the others were thinking, a calm voice rang out in the void. Following that, a majestic and mysterious silhouette appeared in the center of the god race. Standing on it, it was like the god of the gods, the center of the myriad worlds. A terrifying might was emitted from the silhouette. Explosive power filled every inch of his flesh and blood. His muscles were distributed all over his body, emitting smooth curves that were extremely perfect. He held a green divine axe in his hand. One look at it was enough to make one feel as if their soul was about to be torn apart. This was naturally the progenitor sacred king of the god race and the destinable divine artifact, the axe of nature. Tell me the way to break through to the immortal king realm, and I can write off your grudge with the god race. Otherwise, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. The ancestral Sage King said calmly, as though this was a gift and a matter of fact. Fufu. The moment Fang-Qing-Shan heard this, he nodded his head in understanding. Chuckling out, he ignored the ancestral Sage King and looked around before replying calmly. Since you're here, please show yourselves. The moment his words landed, indeed, several figures walked out. Every single one of them was no weaker than the ancestral Sage King of the god race. Among these people, some seemed to possess the truth of the heaven and earth. Some seemed to possess the origin of the heaven and earth. Some seemed to possess an unparalleled creation realm. Some possessed a dense amount of prayers. Some possessed a deep sense of Zen. And one of them even possessed an unparalleled demonic might. Truth, origin, creation, immortal king, worldly limitless Buddha Lord, primordial Taoist, ancestor dragon of desolation, primordial demon lord, and the ancestral Sage King. Holy **T. There were more than 10 immortal kings that had ruled over an entire era. Although they did not break through due to the source of eternal life, their accumulation was more than enough. In terms of magical power, they were not much worse than Grand Luo. Fufu, I didn't expect that the old immortal kings would turn out in full force in the immortal world. Seeing this scene, Fang-Qing-Shan could not help but laugh. He was now somewhat of a protagonist. Wherever he went, the group ridicule skill would be activated, and the effect was remarkable. When he was on the journey to the west, he attracted a group of Buddhists to attack him, and he almost failed miserably. When he returned to the Five Elements sect, he attracted the siege of more than half of the forces of the heaven realm. Now, it was rumored that many old immortal kings who had entered the gate of eternal life had also appeared and even besieged him. Actually, what Fang Qingshan did not know was that, after he opened the ruins of eternal life, the fate of the immortal world changed drastically, which had already alarmed these old antiques who had been sitting in the gate of eternal life for an unknown period of time. At the same time, it also gave him a hint of an opportunity to break through. As a result, these people came out without hesitation. Although they missed the ruins of eternal life, they also snatched some opportunities. Unfortunately, their fate were naturally suppressed by the gate of eternal life. Although they had already understood the way of the absolute heaven, they could not break through. In the face of this situation, they were naturally unwilling. In the past, they could not see hope, which made them desperate. Now that they saw hope, they could not break through, which made them even more uncomfortable, under the manipulation of a behind-the-scenes manipulator. As a result, former opponents and enemies have joined together to trace the source, looking for the reason for these changes, looking for an opportunity for them to break through. In the end, they locked their target on Fang Qingshan. As a result, there were good fortune, fate, truth, primeval demon sect, Buddha, dragon, God, and other worlds attacking the five-element sect. The so-called discovery of clues, the so-called driven by interests, the so-called threat of fear, were actually all secretly manipulated by them. They just want to test Fang Qingshan, but they didn't expect that this test would actually poke a hornet's nest. They never expected that Fang Qingshan had actually broken through to the Immortal King realm. Just when they were still thinking about what to do next, a voice suddenly rang out. Fang Qingshan had actually started to take the initiative to snatch the World Tree and suppress the Pantheon Palace. This time, the primogenitor Sage King could not sit still. When the others saw this, they also knew that they could not wait any longer. Otherwise, if they wanted to steal the good fortune, forget about taking action, even the idea would be erased. Therefore, whether it was to stop Fang Qingshan, or for the good fortune on him, or for the promise, the moment the primogenitor Sage King made his move, they had already made up their minds to attack together. Hand over the method to break through to the Immortal King realm. Otherwise, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. Okay. Fang Qingshan said, okay, thrice. However, his face did not change at all. This scene was already within his expectations, but he did not expect it to happen so quickly. Chapter 859. Since I'm already here, I'll just take things as they come. In any case, it had to be resolved. What did it matter if it was a little later or a little earlier? He knew that if he wanted to obtain the door of eternal life, these people would be his stumbling blocks. He would have to deal with them sooner or later. It was just that he had originally thought that he should have gone to the world beyond worlds at the very least. It was only after the door of eternal life had appeared in the Immortal King battlefield that these people had jumped out. He had not thought that they had actually made preparations long ago. It was good that he could deal with them in advance. It would save him the trouble of having to guard against these people when he was collecting the gate of eternal life. You can wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find it by chance. He was still thinking about how to find the gate of eternal life. Originally, he wanted to use Fang Qingxue to gain the favor of the gate of eternal life. He wanted to use Fang Han as the son of an era to find the gate of eternal life. It seemed that there was no need for that now. As long as the war started, the gate of eternal life would definitely appear. Why did immortal kings like the origin of creation and the other immortal kings disappear from the world a long time ago and head for the Immortal King battlefield and the gate of eternal life? Apart from wanting to progress further, they also wanted to follow the trail of destiny and unravel the mysteries of the door of eternal life. Just like in Desolation, they were all grounded by Hongjun Tiandao. A battle between immortal kings would cause too much of a commotion. The heaven realm wouldn't be able to withstand it at all. Once they went all out, the shockwaves would destroy the heaven realm. The end of an era had arrived in advance. This sort of situation was obviously not permitted by the Heaven Tao. As for the desolation method, driving them into the chaos was definitely unrealistic. After all, none of them were even Grand Luo. It would be difficult for them to even stroll around, much less survive in the chaos. Thus, the Gate of Eternal Life projected the Celestial King battlefield. This was a place specially prepared by the Gate of Eternal Life for those immortal kings. No matter what you do here, nothing will happen unless you have the ability to break the Gate of Eternal Life. Moreover, this battlefield was not just a place for immortal kings to torment. If someone comprehended this secret, they would be able to enter the Gate of Eternal Life and live forever. Unfortunately, since ancient times, no one has been able to break through to this level. Buzz, just as Fong Qingshan was about to make his move, a terrifying existence suddenly appeared. It was supreme and invincible, eternal and undying. All sorts of profound auras descended from the sky. Sensing this aura and power, whether it was Fong Qingshan, Fortune, or the others, their eyes lit up. Following that, a supreme force enveloped everyone and changed their minds. Even Fong Qingshan, who was at the peak of the grand heavenly realm, could not resist this force. If he used the power of the timeless arc, he could, but there was no need, because he knew that this was the power of the door of eternal life. The war of the immortal kings, especially the war of so many peak immortal kings, does not have to wait for the end of the era. The great destruction of heaven and earth can directly destroy the entire immortal world. Every peck and every drink had its own destiny. Even though it was nearing the end of the era, the tribulation chi and baleful chi had yet to brew to their peak. The great apocalypse still wasn't the right time. Therefore, it was obvious that the door of eternal life would not allow something like this to happen ahead of time. Sure enough, it was as Fong Qingshan had expected, seeing that they were about to make a move. The door of eternal life took the lead and teleported them out. When they opened their eyes, they were already in an unfamiliar place. Of course, this place was only unfamiliar to Fong Qingshan, but to the origin immortal king and the others, they couldn't be more familiar. The battlefield of the immortal king. Yes, this was the battlefield of the immortal king. As far as the eye could see, there were endless storms all around. These storms were formed by chaotic and violent laws, just like when the world tree went berserk and the laws of the realm of gods went berserk. However, that was a special case in the realm of gods, but here it was the norm, and the power was unfathomable. Of course, in the battlefield of the immortal king, apart from the chaotic laws, unparalleled killing intent, tyrannical vitality, and other reasons. Just like the bottomless abyss, it contained the will of many immortal kings and the remnants of divine abilities. It was a complete mess, and all kinds of forces collided, causing the earth, fire, water, and wind to surge, forming a chaotic void. If the bottomless abyss, even a heavenly lord would die if he was not careful, then the battlefield of the immortal king was an upgraded version of the bottomless abyss. The battlefield of the immortal king was an upgraded version of the bottomless abyss. Even if one was an immortal king, if they were not capable enough, they would be exhausted to death here. Calamity, Virtue, Fong Han, and the heavenly consort, why didn't they come to the battlefield of the immortal king right after they broke through to the immortal king realm? Other than the fact that their capabilities had not reached the point where they could no longer advance, and that they wanted more opportunities, more importantly, they knew that the battlefield of the immortal king was not an easy place to survive. If it was Calamity, Virtue, and the heavenly consort who had a strong background, then so be it. But those who had a grudge against the immortal king realm, the Buddhist sect, the dynasties, and the Holy Lands would be in even greater danger. Of course, danger was only for those who were not capable enough. Fong Qingshan, Good Fortune, Primogenitor Holy King, and the others wouldn't encounter this problem. Their cultivations were tyrannical enough, and their magic treasures were sharp enough. To them, the various dangers here were nothing more than scabies. They didn't pose too much of a threat. After all, The various dangers in the battlefield of the immortal king were merely the traces left behind by the battle or death of immortal kings. After a long time, the terrifying environment was formed. However, creation and the others were kings of immortal kings. Even if they were alive, they wouldn't be able to cause too much trouble, let alone Feng Qing Kill. Before Feng Qing could take a good look at the battlefield of the immortal king, the ancestor and the others had already made their move. The first to strike gained the upper hand, and the last to strike suffered a calamity. Moreover, Feng Qing was a peerless existence who had already transcended. If not for the door of eternal life's order, that whoever killed Feng Qing would be able to break through to the grand immortal realm, and that Feng Qing himself was something they coveted and feared, no one would have made a move at all. However, even a lion would use its full strength to fight a rabbit. Since it had made its move, it was naturally the most powerful attack. The first to make a move was the mythical old man. He was the master of the Heavenly Mother. His cultivation level was above the truth and origin. He had the mythical mirror, a treasure of fortune. He was one of the only two experts in the immortal world who had broken through to the realm of destruction, second only to the primordial demon lord. Why was the primordial demon lord almost invincible in magic power and able to fight against the heavens? Even if he was besieged by many immortal kings and left behind his body after his fall, he could still enter the door of eternal life with an extremely tyrannical spirit. In addition to the fact that he had the Stone of Three Lives, the most powerful treasure of fortune under the door of eternal life, their cultivation level was incomparably powerful. I am a mythical, not a legend. A mythical strike is immeasurable. The world is chaotic, and I have opened it up with my axe. It has become a pure land, and the god race is immeasurable. The one who made a move after the mythical old man was not the primordial demon lord, nor was it anyone else, but the ancestor of the god race. Chapter 860. If he hadn't acted quickly, the divine race would have been completely eradicated by Feng Qing. At his level of cultivation, under normal circumstances, the divine race wouldn't be able to help him much. But why did the ancestral Holy King open up the divine world again and again? In addition to wanting the Protoss to attack the Trichiliacosm and even occupy the heavenly realm, just like the three races of the untainted land, the two races of the witch and the demon race, unify the whole immortal world and achieve the Tao with the infinite destiny. The reason was simple. It was the Pantheon Palace. From the way the heavenly concubine and the others used the Pantheon Palace, it could be seen that there were only about 1,000 heavenly lords and a few divine race that had just entered the immortal king realm. If one day the Pantheon Palace was filled with heavenly lords, why would he worry about not being able to do anything? Not fated with the Tao? Moreover, the ancestral Holy King believed that as long as he waited, if one epoch wasn't enough, then 2, 3, 10, he could afford to wait. As long as one epoch of accumulation, the power of the Pantheon Palace would sooner or later meet his requirements and help him pick the opportunity of eternal life. Although the gate of eternal life promised that as long as he killed Feng Qing, he would be granted eternal life. But for the old ancestral Holy King and the others, they could only believe 30% of this. They could only say 30% of what they meant. They couldn't throw away all their hearts. Moreover, apart from the true and false reasons, first of all, they had to be able to live to the end. Since the gate of eternal life didn't do it himself, but threatened and tempted them, especially by promising eternal life, it was obvious that this was not an easy task. After all, the more they gained, the more they had to pay. But they still came. They just thought that, after all, there was strength in numbers. If they succeeded, everyone would naturally be happy. If they saw that the situation wasn't right, they would immediately retreat. Everyone held the idea that they didn't want to make any mistakes. But at the beginning, the ancestral Holy King's idea was broken, because Feng Qing almost destroyed the divine race in the Pantheon Palace. This was his backup and his real hope. Therefore, this hatred was absolutely irreconcilable. That was why the ancestral Holy King acted so quickly and so ruthlessly. With a wave of his arm, he raised the divine nature axe in his hand high up and swung it in a mysterious trajectory. The sacred king primogenitor attacked in anger. Everywhere the axe light passed by, even the sturdy space of the immortal king battlefield was easily cleaved into two. The true will of splitting the heavens emanated from the divine axe. It slashed down mercilessly at Feng Qingshan, unstoppable. One axe to break the primal chaos. One axe to create the four images. One axe to split heaven and earth. One axe to separate the pure and the turbid. It was as if everything in the world would return to chaos and be destroyed by the divine axe. Of course, this heaven-splitting true intent could not be compared to Pangu's heaven-splitting true intent at all. After all, what Pangu had opened up was the desolation great world, which could kill a chaos demon god with a single axe strike. On the other hand, the primogenitor's sacred king could only kill immortal kings at most, and had opened up a minor kiliacosm at most. It had not even reached the level of a medium kiliacosm. But no matter what world it was indeed the true will of splitting the heavens. Moreover, it was very deep and experienced. After all, the immortal world was opened up by the ancestral Holy King with a single axe strike. And every time the world was destroyed and the immortal world returned to chaos, the ancestral Holy King would wield the axe and open up the immortal world once more, creating a pure land. Initially, he thought that the ancestral Holy King was so persistent because of the celestial race and the Pantheon Palace. But now, it seemed like it was all for the sake of cultivating the heaven-splitting axe technique. Knowledge creates civilization. Civilization breeds wisdom. Wisdom belongs to truth. Truth exists in eternity. After the ancestral Holy King, other than the primordial demon lord, everyone else moved at the same time. The truth immortal king's tone was cold and murderous. My will is the will of heaven. My words are the will of heaven. My heart is the will of heaven. I am the unbreakable truth. With one hand, he displayed the universal truth divine fist. As he punched out, the boundless power of laws distorted. Everything became hazy. Only this punch of his was the supreme truth. With one hand, he took out an utmost treasure, the door of wonder. It wasn't the door of wonder that was taken away by Feng Qingshan after the Tao and Virtue Immortal King had led his men to attack the Five Elements sect. To think that the utmost treasure that was formed from the mysteries of the world was actually obtained by the truth Immortal King. But thinking about it, it wasn't all that strange. For the truth Immortal King to be able to replicate a godly item of the heavens, the door of wonder that was close to being an utmost treasure fortune, it was clear that be in terms of his understanding of the mysteries of the world or his affinity with the door of wonder, both were not small. It was only natural that the door of wonder would end up in his hands. The great Tao of all thousand returns to the origin. The origin Immortal King manifests all techniques. The origin Immortal King displayed his signature move as well. His first move was the great Tao of the source. At the same time, he took out an utmost treasure, the door of Khanate. Everything was formed, Khanate was born from the earth. It was rumored to be an utmost treasure of the universe that ruled over many chaos eras. Just like the door of wonder, it represented the power of Khanate, a power that surpassed the heaven and earth. It was completely before the heaven and earth. Actually, speaking of which, be it the origins Immortal King or the truth Immortal King, the reason why they were able to obtain the Khanate and Door of Wonders was all thanks to Feng Qingshan. Because of Feng Qingshan's opening of the ruins, Immortal World ushered in an unprecedented great change and a great explosion of luck. Many supreme treasures appeared to search for their true Lord. That was why they had the opportunity to obtain it. The worldly limitless Buddha, Lord, was a powerful being of the Buddha world. He was practically the number one powerful being of the Buddha race, far surpassing the Lord of the Buddha world, the boundless Buddha Lord. Empress Li, Empress Chiao, Empress Thurni, Empress Nia, Empress Pili, Empress Maha, Empress Zhenling, Empress Shapoha. Along with the chanting of the worldly freedom Buddha Lord, the Dharma image of a Buddha appeared behind his back. The moment this Dharma image appeared, it was as though billions of rays of sunlight shone down on Mount Meru, causing countless true Buddhas to be manifested from the light. It seemed illusory yet real, illusory yet real. Boundless karma coiled around it. Although it was illusory, it was something that truly existed. One could neither see the past nor see the future clearly. All it could do was exist eternally with the world, chanting the sutras together with the worldly, limitless Buddha Lord. He formed a seal with both hands and formed a swastika character. Although it wasn't an utmost treasure, it wasn't any weaker than one. When I attain eternal life, all living beings in the myriad heavens and billions of specks of dust will be free and limitless as long as they chant my name. When I attain eternal life, all time and space, past and future, all stars will shatter into specks of dust. All living beings will be granted eternal life as long as they chant my name. Otherwise, I will not attain eternal life. When I attain eternal life, when I attain eternal life, one after another, the grand aspirations reverberated through time and space. Countless living beings, the depths of their souls, and even the Tao of heaven and earth seemed to be responding to the voice of the primordial Taoist. A series of halos rose behind his head, just like the 24 heavens of Dipamkara. Within them were all living beings, and they chanted along with the primordial Taoist with their palms clasped together in a pious manner. A majestic power of will surged forth like a torrent. The grand aspirations of primordial Taoist. The primordial Taoist had made his move. Indeed, he lived up to his reputation as the worldly limitless Buddha, Lord's Gamble. Even the creation immortal king was deeply wary of the primordial Taoist. Compared to the others, he was almost on par with old myths. Chapter 861. Although Fang Qingshan had seen Venerable Ling Long use this supreme divine ability, he had never seen it before. Compared with primordial mist Taoist, there was no doubt that the difference was too great. Those who transform into me live, those who break me advance, and those who resemble me die. The things of the predecessors could be inherited and learned. But if you wanted to surpass them, you had to break the shackles and be unconventional. Otherwise, if you followed the path of the predecessors, it would be difficult to surpass the original owner. Primordial Mist Hongjun Tiandao. This was all the 3,000 great Tao that primordial mist Taoists cultivated except for the great fate art. He meditated in front of the gate of eternal life for 90,000 years. He had gained enlightenment of an unprecedented technique that was comparable to the grand fate art, a great Tao of eternal life. This was his natal great Tao, although he did not rely on this great Tao to prove his Tao. However, the solitary path of the great Tao could only display its greatest power in his hands. If Venerable Ling Long wanted to surpass him, she would have to break through to the zenith heaven realm first. Otherwise, it would be difficult to surpass primordial mist Taoist in primordial mist Hongjun Tiandao. Compared to them, the creation immortal king, who had lost the 33 heavens fortune treasure, was also very powerful, but obviously inferior. In addition to them, there were also the Lord of 10,000 beasts, Lord of true spirit, Lord of no history, ancestral dragon, and others. They also took out their special skills and suppressed their strength. In the end, Fang Qingshan was not the protagonist. He was like a big villain. A just cause enjoys abundant support, while an unjust cause finds little. Fang Han at least had a group of helpers, but almost all of them were enemies. After entering the immortal king battlefield, many immortal kings in the gate of eternal life attacked together. Infinite horror, endless death, ruthless destruction. The attack of so many immortal kings had the infinite power to crush everything, destroy everything, and kill all strong enemies. At least for the eternal life world. If it was Fang Han, even if he was the son of destiny, he would not be able to escape death. But what made Fang Qingshan most afraid was not these people. In terms of cultivation, these people were not as good as Fang Qingshan, and the same was true in terms of magic power. Instead, their spirit treasures and divine powers were worth watching. Although their realm was low, their intentions were high. It was the same for numinous treasures, especially those that had been nurtured since birth. For example, Hongming Daoist Hongming Hongjun Tiandao was almost a replica of Zhuandi's great wish of the desolation world. The door of mystery and the door of pre-celestial had many similarities with the Tai Ching immortal art that Fang Qingshan had obtained. However, these changes only made Fang Qingshan feel surprised and slightly pressured. The primordial demon lord, who had yet to make a move, was the one who truly made Fang Qingshan wary. Of course, it wasn't that his cultivation base was the highest. After all, he was a demolisher, which made him even stronger than Godmyth. The so-called peerless demolishers were nothing more than pseudo-grand heavenly immortals. What really made Fang Qingshan afraid was the three-live stone in his hands. This was the most powerful divine stone that was ejected from the gate of eternal life. It contained the power of past life, present life, and future life. It dissected fate, grasped the past, present, and future, and commanded the three lives. The primordial demon lord had refined it into a destinable artifact that surpassed even the 33 heavens treasure, the axe of nature. It was rumored that the primordial demon lord only needed to carve a person's name onto the three-live stone, and he would be able to completely grasp any person's past life, present life, and future life. Even immortal kings were no exception, and even grand heavenly immortals would be affected. This was the reason why he could dominate the world and become the king of immortal kings. Moreover, that was the power of the past. As his cultivation base broke through and the spirit treasure was refined, the three-live stone's power increased even further. Now, even Fang Qingshan could vaguely feel a hint of threat from it. This treasure immediately made Fang Qingshan think of immortal Lu Ya's 7 Arrows book and the Tongtian Hierophant's banner of 6 streamers. This kind of cursed magic treasure, no matter which world it was the most dreadful. It was the same even in the mortal world. Once a witchcraft goo incident occurred, it would be investigated to the very end. As for the world of the immortal Tao, the power of curses was even more terrifying. During the War of Investiture of the Gods, Zhao Gongming, Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, was killed by Jiangxia, a mere Earth Immortal, using the 7 Arrows book. As for the banner of 6 streamers, it was even more powerful. In the myriad immortal array, the Tongtian Hierophant had written the names of Laozi and the others on it. With a wave, even a sage would feel dizzy and weak. Moreover, it was impossible to guard against. After all, Laozi had 2 supreme treasures, the primordial yellow pagoda and the Taiji diagram. In particular, the primordial yellow pagoda was formed from the karma of heaven and earth and had an absolute restraining effect on all evil powers. Yet, it could not withstand the attack of the banner of 6 streamers at all. From this, one could see how powerful the treasure was. Although it was not a powerful offensive treasure like the God Slayer, it also had the power to change the course of a battle. After all, there was no room for carelessness in a fight between experts. If you were to suddenly stumble, hesitate, or reveal a flaw while you were in the middle of a battle, it would be fatal. Of course, curses were strange and powerful, so the price to pay was not small. As the primordial demon Lord carved Fang Qingshan's name on the stone of 3 lives. Before Fang Qingshan could do anything, the primordial demon lord was already on the verge of collapsing. However, although the price to pay was not small, the effect was also very good. Even with Fang Qingshan's current cultivation base, his primordial spirit was actually shaking. In that instant, he was almost hit by the attacks of the immortal king of Origin and the others. Fortunately, the stone of 3 lives was just the stone of 3 lives, not the 7 Arrows book or the banner of 6 streamers. Otherwise, Fang Qingshan would have to use the timeless Arkansas With the blessing of providence, boundless karma, Fang Qingshan frowned and took out the all-heaven chessboard. He released the ocean-like providence and mountain-like karma that existed within. This situation of being spied on and shaken could be eradicated. Sure enough, although the level of power in a mortal world is low, it does not mean that there are no accidents and dangers. If my cultivation base does not break through, the timeless arc does not advance, and there is no providence and karma, I am afraid that I may really fall short of success. Fang Qingshan narrowed his eyes and thought to himself, "You're courting death." Although thousands of thoughts were running through his mind, he did not delay his attack. Fang Qingshan shook his hand and shot out a 5-colored peacock all. Natural mystical power, 5 elements all. It could break anything. However, the 5-colored brilliance flashed like a peacock spreading its tail. Without the restrictions of time and space, it instantly arrived in front of the primordial demon lord. Heaven-devouring demon coffin, bury the great Tao with my Tao. Destroy, destroy, destroy. Seeing this scene, the primordial demon lord suddenly changed his expression and shouted. He felt a strong sense of death from this peacock all. This was even more dangerous than when he was besieged by many immortal kings. Back then, he was besieged by many immortal kings. After he fell, he left behind his body and was able to enter the gate of eternal life with an extremely tyrannical spirit. But this time, he knew that as long as he was hit by the peacock all, he would definitely die. Therefore, he also brought out his trump card. Although the Stone of 3 Lives was strong, it was not a treasure that was compatible with his great Tao. Chapter 862. Tao Verification Spiritual Treasure. If it wasn't for the huge difference in grade, generally speaking, Tao Verification Spiritual Treasures were the most powerful magic treasures in the host's hands. It was just like ordinary magical powers and natural magical powers. Not only was it easier to control, but it could also exert 200% of its power. The primordial demon lord's Tao Verification Spiritual Treasure was the sky-devouring demon coffin. This treasure might not be as good as the 3 Live Stone in terms of quality, but in terms of power, it was even more powerful. Not only was it an offensive spiritual treasure, but it was also compatible with the Great Path. Just like the Tai Chi diagram in Sanqing's hands, the Pangu banner, and the immortal slaying sword formation. If it wasn't for the fact that its grade was naturally higher and could suppress large sects, it would definitely not be comparable to the Tao Verification Spiritual Treasure in their hands. If they were to choose to abandon the Tai Chi diagram, the Pangu banner, the immortal slaying sword formation, or the carrying pole, the 3-jewel scepter, or the Qingping sword, there is no doubt that the former would be abandoned, because abandoning the latter was equivalent to abandoning the Great Path. As this shout faded, a sky burial coffin that surpassed the fortune of mortal kings and almost caught up to Dipankara's body appeared in the air. This was the primordial demon lord's natal supreme treasure, which he had obtained together with the Stone of 3 Lives, as well as the treasures he had collected over the years and the rare treasures he had found after entering the gate of eternal life. It carried his lawless great Tao of Devil. However, it was blood-red and emitted a strange black aura that made it impossible to see through. It was hazy and indistinct, and when one looked carefully, one could not see it clearly. It was very rough. As the sky-devouring demon coffin cracked open, it was like the first ray of light that cut through the darkness. A strong light burst out, but it was not dazzling because the light was incomparably dark. After the appearance of the black light, a powerful black heavenly pillar shot up into the sky. That black heavenly pillar exuded a kind of terrible will that fused death, destruction, devouring, suppression, burial, and so on. Return. This is the tomb of the Great Path, the home of all living beings, as heaven and earth had no laws, and heaven and earth had no Tao. When the black heavenly pillar rose to the highest point, it suddenly dispersed and turned into a sky curtain that shrouded everything. The entire battlefield of the immortal king became completely dark, as if it had completely fallen into the chaos of the night. Within the black curtain, there was a terrible oppression. Even the chaotic laws, the violent yuan qi, and the raging will seem to be completely suppressed. Following that, a terrifying suction force erupted from the sky-devouring demonic coffin. It frantically absorbed all the worldly essence energy around it and swallowed the five element all in one gulp. No, the sky-devouring demon coffin, block it. After swallowing the spiritual energy of the primordial, the demon coffin, and the spiritual master and spiritual chi, the power of the heavens, it and the power of the gods, and was but it in, although the five elements all was not invincible, and was not even as powerful as the death scythe, it still had the offensive power of an upper-grade primordial spiritual treasure. Fong, and in, and that said in Dao, treasure Dao. Fong above. With a flash of light, a large amount of the black aura was cleaved apart. A crisp sound rang out from the lid of the sky-devouring demon coffin, having been pierced through by Fong Qingshan's five elements all. Following the small hole, hideous cracks spread out like a spider web as the sky-devouring demon coffin let out a despairing wail. Although only the lid had been broken, the five elements all had not only broken the lid, but also the demon Dao of the primordial demon master. This was his treasure that carried the Dao. This injury was a Dao injury. If this injury did not heal, there was no hope for the great path. To heal a Dao injury was difficult. Even a mixed Yuan sage would find it difficult. Without great merit, such as Hong Jun Tiandao's empowerment, eternal blessings, and the like, one could forget about making up for it. Treasures of heaven and earth, elixirs, and even the triple light sacred water and the 9 transformations golden elixir were all ineffective. Therefore, not only was the source of the sky-devouring demon coffin heavily damaged, its power greatly weakened, but the primordial demon master was in an even worse state. First, the stone of 3 lives backfired. Then the sky-devouring demon coffin was broken. Now, at a glance, the primordial demon master no longer looked lawless and arrogant. Those who did not know better would think that he was an old man at the end of his days, a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. While dealing with the primordial demon master, Fong Qingshan did not let his guard down against the attacks of the other immortal kings. It was better to be safe than sorry. If Hong Meng Taoist and the others had treasures like the stone of 3 lives, and he failed miserably, he would be filled with regret. Therefore, although Fong Qingshan was ambushed by the stone of 3 lives, it did not stop him from attacking. Of course, even if these attacks landed on him, the defensive power of the mystic essence water manipulation flag would not be able to hurt him. However, it was better to be safe than sorry. He formed a seal with both hands and made a sound. Rumble. A 5-colored splendor flashed, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth swarmed over. The sound of rolling heavenly thunder was earth-shattering. The dark clouds in the void became thicker and thicker, as black as ink. Countless silver snakes slithered through the thunder. One could not see through them at a glance, and wherever they passed, ghosts and gods avoided them. Even the immortal kings in the immortal king battlefield avoided it like a snake or a scorpion. Fong Qingshan pointed into the distance. The silver bottle broke, and the water splashed. Iron cavalry rushed out, and swords and spears rang out. The thunderclouds in the void rumbled, and the waves surged. Endless thunder and lightning poured down in torrents, sweeping toward Old Man Mythology and the others. Its color was like a rainbow, its shape like a dragon, its sharpness like a sword, and its speed like light. 5 elemental annihilation thunder. In the past, Fong Qingshan's understanding of thunder techniques was very high. In terms of divine powers, it was second only to the 5 elemental annihilation needle and the sword truth. Now, as Fong Qingshan obtained the thunderclap flag, although he did not refine it himself, he gained great benefits and comprehended the Dutian thunder. This could be said to be the strongest thunder technique that Fong Qingshan knew. With the innate divine power, the power of this thunder technique was above the 5 elemental annihilation needle. It had the divine power of one thunder to break all techniques. Poof, 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 poof. Whether it was old man mythology, the primordial Taoist, the ancestral dragon, or the creation celestial king. Whether it was divine powers or supreme treasures. At this moment, when faced with Fang Qingshan's 5 elemental annihilation thunder technique that contained a trace of the Dutian thunder's will, all the celestial kings were shaken by an unknown force. Their divine powers were broken, and their treasures were sent flying. They spat out mouthfuls of blood and retreated. Although they were attacking Fang Qingshan together, it was to no avail. The difference between them was too great. Fang Qingshan did not just break through to the grand heavenly realm. Instead, he had reached the peak of the grand heavenly realm and could even kill quasi-sages. Even without the timeless arc, a divine power was not weaker than an ordinary treasure. Not to mention his innate divine powers, the 5 elemental all and the 5 elemental annihilation thunder. Of course, no matter how good a divine power or treasure was, it depended on who was using it. Coincidentally, Fang Qingshan's realm was high, and his magic power was strong. When the two of them worked together, the power was naturally unstoppable. What a pity! Fang Qingshan shook his head and sighed. He was not happy about his victory, but felt pity for these people. Chapter 863. Geniuses were not separated by region. They were only limited by region. If they had the chance, they would definitely soar to the sky. Just like the celestial dragon world that Fang Qingshan first transmigrated to, although it was only a low-level martial world, the geniuses inside were no worse than the geniuses of high-level worlds. If Qiao Feng were to be replaced in a higher-level world, as long as he did not die, he would definitely be able to compete with the geniuses of the heavens. Correspondingly, it would be the same for creation and the others in the desolation world. Their achievements would be far greater than what they had now. They were all the top geniuses of the immortal world, but they were limited by the world and could not break through. If these people did not come looking for trouble with him, after he collected the gate of eternal life, he would no longer be restricted and would soon rise to the heavens. These people had already accumulated enough to break through to the immortal king realm and become a grand heavenly immortal realm. Moreover, without the shackles of the world, breaking through to the grand heavenly immortal realm was just the starting point, and becoming a demi-saint would not be a problem. As for primordial chaos, this might be a little troublesome. After all, looking at the entire universe, there were very few people who could eventually break through to primordial chaos, perhaps not even 1 in a trillion people. Without great luck, perseverance, and great opportunities, breaking through is simply a pipe dream. Since the establishment of the desolation world, the number of saints in primordial chaos could be counted on 2 hands. Mingyi, Fuxi, Kuan Peng, and even the dead Dijun, Tai Yi, Zhu Wu, and the others were the best in terms of talent, luck, and cultivation. Unfortunately, they either died early or were still wasting away. However, even if they could not become primordial chaos, a demi-saint would still be a giant in the universe. What a pity. Who told them to come and deal with him? They were really fated to have such a calamity. With this thought, Fang Qingshan raised his hand, and thunderclouds condensed above his head again. In an instant, they poured down on old man mythology and the others like a torrential rain. Hard work, but in the end, it will all turn into nothingness. I can't accept this. How can he be so strong? I haven't reached the Tao yet. I can't accept this. Seeing this scene, even if they were at their peak, they would not be able to withstand it. At this moment, the Origin Immortal King and the others could not help but feel regret and despair. At the same time, he felt a deep hatred towards the gate of eternal life. No wonder you want us to take action. It turns out that we are merely cannon fodder to probe. I'm afraid that you have also felt threatened, especially primordial chaos Taoist. His intestines were green with regret. Originally, According to the relationship between Venerable Ling Long and Fong Qingshan, he had the opportunity to join Fong Qingshan and Five Elements sex camp, just like how he helped Fong Han in the original trajectory. Unfortunately, he wasn't willing to rely on an inheritor. He believed in the gate of eternal life even more. As a result, one wrong move, one wrong step, and every step was wrong. Just as Old Man Mythology and the others were about to perish, a terrifying existence appeared in the air. It was a supreme and invincible existence. The eternal and indestructible gate materialized in the air, and all sorts of mysterious auras permeated the air, filling the entire sky. What ultimate heavenly gate, mysterious gate, connate gate, immortal slaying gate? In comparison, it was like the difference between a firefly and the bright moon. This was the true supreme of the sect. As soon as this door appeared, it was as if the great Tao had manifested itself. It really is a connate cardinal treasure. The moment Fong Qingshan saw the true form of the gate of eternal life, he finally confirmed its true quality and couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Although he was certain that the gate of eternal life was a connate cardinal treasure, he hadn't seen it with his own eyes. If it was an existence similar to the God-Slayer, it would be troublesome. Fortunately, everything was as he expected. Although there was still a certain gap between it and the Tai Chi diagram that Fong Qingshan had seen before, it wasn't a surprise. After all, the Tai Chi diagram was 1/3 of a chaos cardinal treasure, and it was also supported by Pan Gu's merit of Genesis. However, a connate cardinal treasure was still a connate cardinal treasure. Although the thunderclap flag that he had obtained might surpass the gate of eternal life in terms of foundation and origin, there was still a gap between them. Even the weakest connate cardinal treasure was more powerful than the strongest connate spiritual treasure. Some powerful superior grade connate spiritual treasures might be comparable to connate spiritual treasures, but it was extremely difficult to compete with connate spiritual treasures. It was just like how a Grand Luo could challenge a demi-sage, but the chances of a demi-sage challenging a sage was too low. Space froze. Fong Qingshan's Five Elements annihilation, thunder, seemed to have transcended the limits of time and space, but at this moment, it seemed to be playing back in slow motion. Following that, the gate of eternal life erupted with a devouring power that was 10 times or even 100 times stronger than the primordial demon lord's sky-devouring demon coffin. It swallowed the thundercloud in a single gulp, instantly obliterating it. Chaos, yin, yang, tai chi, yin and yang for divisions, 5 elements, and various other great Taos of heaven and earth poured out. Of course, different people had different fates. When these great Taos landed around Fong Qingshan, they turned into a violent nomological storm. The chaotic nomological storm in the battlefield of immortal kings was nothing compared to this. Even Fong Qingshan had to be careful of these nomological storm. If a demi-sage wasn't a physique-tempering expert and didn't have a supreme treasure to protect themselves, they could easily fail miserably. When it fell on creation and the others, it was Hong Jun Tiandao's empowerment. Their realms, cultivation, and cultivation all rose like sesame seeds, and they didn't have to worry about the problem of their foundation. If it was the Desolation World's Hong Jun Tiandao's empowerment, Fong Qingshan might be envious. But it was the gate of eternal life. Even if it was empowerment, it wouldn't have much effect on him. What a good gate of eternal life. Unfortunately, without me, you might still be able to act like a tyrant in the immortal world. If you still had an artifact spirit, it wouldn't be easy for me to take you down. Now, you're just at your wit's end and struggling on your deathbed. Seeing the gate of eternal life's actions, Fong Qingshan's thoughts turned, and he understood. He couldn't help but sneer. Wasn't it too late to think of improving the cultivation of creation and the others at this time? Go! Fong Qingshan didn't pay attention to creation, Hongming, and the others. Instead, his eyes focused, and he displayed his first natal magical ability, the 5 Elements bracelet. It was bright and flashed with dazzling 5-colored brilliance, as if it was the most gorgeous color between heaven and earth. Its entire body was made of glass, untainted by dust, and it exuded a trace of eternal and immortal aura. 5 elements talismans that looked like tadpoles were engraved on it, like dragons and snakes. 5 of the most beautiful pearls were inlaid on it, like 5 hearts, providing abundant power for the 5 elements bracelet. Buzz! As the 5 elements bracelet fell, the gate of eternal life also erupted with an unprecedented brilliance. Impressively, one could see the reincarnation of the immortal world since its birth. One could see immortals, Buddhas, gods, demons, and demons pursuing eternal life, wave after wave, unwavering in their determination. One could see the 3,000 great Taoists, and destiny reigned supreme. One could see, I am eternal, immortal, 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 immortal. One could almost hear Hongming's voice whispering, echoing. Chapter 864. Bang! The 5 elements bracelets that were about to land on the gate of eternal life were actually knocked away by the rebounding force. If it weren't for the suppression of the 5 elements spirit pearl, the 5 elements bracelet would have collapsed. This counterattack caused a trace of blood to appear at the corner of Fang Qingshan's mouth. The gate of eternal life is truly impressive. Fang Qingshan touched the trace of blood at the corner of his mouth and could not help but sigh. His 5 elemental bracelets were almost as powerful as the Vajra ring, especially after he ascended to the Grand Luo realm and obtained the 2 5 flags and the 5 needles pine tree. The power of the 5 elemental bracelets was almost on par with Kong Xian's 5-color divine radiance beneath Golden Fowl Ridge all those years ago. Even Khanate cardinal treasures could be obtained, just like how the 5-color divine light could obtain the saint's golden body. However, he did not expect that he would be pecked in the eye by a wild goose. Not only did he fail to steal the treasure, he was even injured by the treasure. In the end, the gate of eternal life was not just a simple treasure. Roar! Right at this moment, the roars of tigers and dragons resounded in the surroundings one after another. He was venting his frustrations to his heart's content. The aura of a trapped dragon rising to the heavens burst forth and soared into the sky. The entire immortal king battlefield, the world beyond worlds, the heaven realm, and even the entire eternal world. At this moment, the sun and moon were high up in the sky. The stars were fighting for their brilliance, swallowing and spitting out clouds, and a hexagonal sound was produced. Profound sounds could be heard everywhere, and fragrances could be smelled. They lingered for a long time, never stopping. All types of scenes appeared, from the very first Great Era to the Great Circle of the present 3,000 Great Eras. There were fiend celestials, humans, cultivators, ferocious beasts, immortal birds, magi, technology, and, at this moment, it seems that the history of the 3,000 years of the entire mortal world is reproduced close at hand. Heaven and earth celebrated. They celebrated the perfection of the 3,000 epochs. Someone had finally proven their Tao and transcended. How many years has it been? I've finally attained eternal life. Who would have thought that a Grand Luo would actually be this powerful? It really is a heavenly chasm. Good. My unwavering pursuit of the great Tao was not in vain. Today, my wish has finally come true. All time and space are eternal and undying. Good fortune and the others had long since reached the edge of breaking through. It was just that the amount of magic power they could contain was limited, and they couldn't use it to cause a qualitative change. After the gate of eternal life imbued them with the power of Hongjun Tiandao, their magic power was immediately compressed and transformed. Even the meridians, Dantian, and inner world that could contain magic power had expanded by several times. He broke through to the grand, heavenly, immortal realm almost naturally. His injuries naturally healed without any medicine. Even the Tao injuries of the primordial demon lord seemed to have healed a lot. Moreover, because they had accumulated too much strength, they were not ordinary Grand Luo. They were at least at the peak of early-stage Grand Luo, and the more powerful ones had even broken through to mid-stage Grand Luo. For example, the Old Man of Mythology and the Primordial Demon Lord had actually reached the late stage of the Golden Immortal Realm. Sure enough, once he broke through, he would soar to the heavens. This could also be considered as a peck and a drink. It had its own destiny. If it wasn't for the accumulation of so many eras, even if they broke through, they would only be at the early Golden Immortal Realm. Not only would they need to spend even more time to consolidate their realm, even if they wanted to break through a few minor realms, it wasn't much easier than breaking through the major realms before them. So you're still at the Grand Luo realm. Fang Qingshan, let's fight again. I'll use you to test it out. Haha. Good and evil will always be rewarded. It's just a matter of time. After the Primordial Demon Lord and the others broke through, they were instantly filled with confidence. When they saw that Fang Qingshan's cultivation was only at the peak of Grand Luo, they wanted to get back at him. They would never know that the gap between them and Fang Qingshan was not just in terms of cultivation, but in many other aspects. So what if he broke through to the Grand Luo realm? He wasn't even at the peak of Grand Luo realm. It would be interesting if the numinous treasures in his hands were all like the Stone of Three Lives, but they weren't. If they knew top-grade formations, and if their numbers were multiplied by several times, or even 10 times, quantitative change would lead to qualitative change. Perhaps Fang Qingshan would still treat them with caution. But now, it was just a matter of a little more effort. Noisy. Although he sympathized with their aptitude, the previous regret was just a sigh of regret from the victors. It would have been fine if it had nothing to do with them, but they dared to attack him at a crucial moment when he was collecting the gate of eternal life. They were courting death. However, in order to focus on collecting the gate of eternal life, Fang Qingshan did not want to waste his energy dealing with them at all. Go! Fang Qingshan's heart skipped a beat as he chanted a spell. The 5 elements array diagram descended from the sky and immediately expanded at an inhuman speed, covering the sky and the earth. It spread towards the origin of Mortal King and the others. In less than a breath's time, the myth's old man and the others who were full of confidence after breaking through to the Grand Luo realm were enveloped within it. Following that, the 5 elements bracelet retracted, and the 5 pearls embedded on it flashed and fell into the formation diagram. Then, they silently disappeared into the void. Their appearance was sudden, and their disappearance was just as sudden. The Primordial Demon Lord and the others who were in high spirits and wanted to compete with Fang Qingshan just a moment ago were trapped in the formation by Fang Qingshan without any room for resistance. If there were no accidents, they would not be able to escape at all. Once Fang Qingshan collected the gate of eternal life, he would deal with them. Whether they lived or died would depend on Fang Qingshan's mood. In an instant, Fang Qingshan and the gate of eternal life were the only ones left in the entire Immortal King battlefield. Don't think of any other tricks. Now that it's just the 2 of us, let's fight for real. Let's see who's better and have a last laugh. Fall. As soon as he said that, Fang Qingshan did not give the gate of eternal life any time to react. He flicked his finger and a copper coin flew out. It shone with a golden light and reeked of copper. It seemed like it could corrode everything. It had a pair of wings on its back, round on the outside and square on the inside. One side was engraved with the words "Fall," while the other side was engraved with the words "Money can move gods." Treasure drop coin. The 5 elements bracelet returned without success, but Fang Qingshan still wanted to try whether the treasure drop coin would work or not. If it worked, it would naturally be for the best, and he wouldn't have to waste too much effort. If it didn't work, then he could only use the timeless arc to forcefully suppress it. Clang! There was a sound of metal clashing, and sparks popped out. The gate of eternal life shook, and the treasure drop coin was also struck back. Although he did not have much hope in his heart, Fang Qingshan could not help but feel a little disappointed when he saw this scene. The treasure drop coin could even drop Khanate treasures, but returned in defeat at the gate of eternal life, which really made Fang Qingshan unhappy. Even so, Fang Qingshan could understand. After all, The Gate of Eternal Life was not just a Khanate treasure, but a divine artifact of Hongjun Tiandao. It had already broken through the shackles of spirit treasures, and the treasure drop coin could not just drop treasures, but the entire world of eternal life. If he could do that, then the power of the treasure drop coin would have to break through the Khanate treasure level. Chapter 865. Sigh. It seems that I can only use the timeless Arkansas. After seeing that the treasure fall coin also failed, Fong Qingshan couldn't help but sigh. Then he brazenly summoned the timeless Arkansas rumble. With a huge roar, the entire Immortal King battlefield seemed to tremble, as if it was about to be destroyed in an instant. The next moment, a ferocious tentacle took the lead in materializing. It was grayish-black, glowing with a faint light, and the sharpness on the tip of the horn was even better than the death scythe. As soon as the chaos demonic horn appeared, it immediately erupted with endless divine brilliance and vast power. Crack, crack! The entire Immortal King battlefield seemed to be unable to bear the mighty power of the timeless arc, and it collapsed inch by inch at a speed visible to the naked eye. The entire void was like a huge piece of glass. Countless shocking cracks spread out. They were densely packed, like a spider's web. There was a clear shattering sound. Whoosh! Seeing the arrival of the timeless arc, the Gate of Eternal Life seemed to sense danger, and in a split second, it shrank into the void, turned into a speck of dust, and wanted to escape. Hee, it's not easy for you to come. How can I let you escape so easily? Fong Qingshan sneered when he saw this. If the Gate of Eternal Life did not appear, he would have to use the great calamity of the end of the era, or Fong Han, the artifact spirit, or Fong Qingxue, the person favored by fate to find it. Not to mention that he had already appeared. If he wanted to escape, right under his nose, he would be looking down on himself. If he allowed the Gate of Eternal Life to escape again, it would not be easy for him to find him again. With vigilance, it would be impossible to find it even if he used Fong Han and Fong Qingxue, coupled with the effect of the primordial treasure to hide the secrets of heaven. Even a sage would not be able to calculate it. If the Gate of Eternal Life gave up the immortal world and found another chaotic world to open, wouldn't he have missed a great opportunity in vain? Not only would it delay the opportunity for Mosquito Dauren to break through to the primordial chaos indefinitely. After all, innate supreme treasures are rare in all heavens and realms, and apart from a mortal world, Fong Qingshan doesn't know where else there are ownerless innate supreme treasures. Moreover, even if it was ownerless, as long as it appeared, it would immediately attract a large number of experts. Even a primordial chaos saint might not be impossible. Although he had the timeless arc, he didn't have any advantage when competing for Khanate treasures elsewhere. In fact, the slightest bit of carelessness could lead to the danger of death. Didn't you see that many geniuses were killed while searching for treasures? Therefore, the door of eternal life could not be missed. If he missed such a good opportunity, he would be the one to blame if he didn't take it. At that time, Mosquito Dauren's cultivation would not be able to break through, and his luck would be suppressed. At the very least, he was not fated to have any fortuitous encounters with him. Freeze! A beam of chaotic divine light shot out. In the blink of an eye, it turned into an ancient divine bridge, crossing the void and suppressing all directions. One end of the stone bridge was connected to the timeless arc, and the other end was fixed on the door of eternal life, like an anchor, locking the door of eternal life in place. Under the divine bridge, there was a vast sea of bitterness, like a sea of blood, and all living beings were sinking in it, unable to transcend and struggling bitterly. On the stone bridge, there seemed to be countless mysterious runes flashing, exuding a transcendental true meaning and an aura of the Nirvana realm. Stepping on the divine bridge, not in the present, not in the past, not in the future, the body is like the Nirvana realm, and 10,000 tribulations will not touch the body. The bridge of the Nirvana realm. Although it was only an auxiliary function, it was quickly broken by the door of eternal life. However, when experts fought, victory and defeat were often decided in an instant. Just like before, when Feng Qingshan was plotted against by the primordial demon lord and almost failed miserably. With the delay of the bridge of the Nirvana realm, Feng Qingshan's next attack had already arrived. Buzz! Death Scythe! Just as the door of eternal life broke free, the Death Scythe arrived, descending from the sky. Yin Yang Cleave. One could see a giant blade cutting through the world. The sky and earth turned dark. The blade gave off a pitch-black light, which was even stronger than the black pillar of the heaven-devouring demon coffin. The heaven-devouring demon coffin was the Tao of eternal life. The Death Scythe was the harvesting of all souls. One could almost hear the terrifying screams of countless souls. Woo, 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 like resentment, like crying, like complaining. The lingering sound was endless. Although the door of eternal life had lost its weapon spirit, it still had spirituality. Facing such an attack that targeted the soul, primordial spirit, and spiritual consciousness, it could not help but tremble. Its primordial spirit and true spirit felt like it was about to be harvested from its body by the power of the scythe. This blade was like a divine stroke, with a sharpness that could tear through everything. The teeth on the scythe sent chills down one's spine. Even a void was forcefully cut through. There was no obstruction at all, and it had already appeared in front of the door of eternal life. Its speed was so fast that one did not even have a chance to react before it was already in front of the door of eternal life. Eternal life, eternal life. Those who believe in me shall have eternal life. Fate shall prosper forever, and it shall never be destroyed. Those who go against fate shall be punished. Just as the Death Scythe was about to strike the door of eternal life, a voice that sounded like a holy chant rang out. A brilliant light condensed, turning into a cannonball that shot out of the door of eternal life, piercing through the distance of billions of light years and blasting towards the Death Scythe. Eternal punishment, epic, true meaning. Boom, boom, boom. Amidst a violent explosion, the void where the collision occurred collapsed inch by inch, shattering and shattering. However, in just a moment, the door of eternal life's attack was completely obliterated, and the Death Scythe lost its momentum. Although it struck the door of eternal life, it was completely useless. All it did was send the door of eternal life flying. Not only did it not damage the door of eternal life, but it even managed to increase the distance between them. If not for Feng Qingshan's consecutive attacks, it might have given the door of eternal life a chance to breathe. Crash! Feng Qingshan first sacrificed the bridge of Other Shore to freeze the door of eternal life to prevent it from escaping. Then he sacrificed the Death Scythe to replace the bridge of Other Shore. Finally, he directly urged the Horn of Chaos and the Timeless Ark to crash into it in a violent manner. This collision was like a comet crashing into the earth. It made a violent roar. 3,000 great Daos, Fate reigns supreme, River of Fate, appear. In the face of the Timeless Ark's brutal collision, the door of eternal life directly sacrificed the River of Fate. A faintly discernible river flowed out of the gate of eternal life, flowing towards an unknown direction. But countless figures could be seen floating in it. Some were suppressed under the River of Fate, never to be reincarnated. These were not living creatures, but the great Daos, nearly 3,000 great Daos excluding Fate. In the world of eternal life, Fate reigns supreme. The other 3,000 great Daos were suppressed by Fate. The chains were all different. Some are water, fire, mountain, and wood. Some are dragons, phoenixes, tortoises, and tigers. Some are monarchs, weapons, and so on. Chapter 866. The weakest of the 3,000 laws had the power of a heavenly monarch, and the strongest almost caught up to the primordial demon lord and old myth before they broke through. Their bodies naturally emitted a completely different and terrifying Taoist rhyme. Unfortunately, even the strongest karma, aspirations, and others were completely suppressed and could not struggle at all. Even if they joined forces, they could not resist the suppression of destiny. It was like how the 3,000 demon lords felt when they faced Pangu. Powerless despair. As for why there were only 3,000 laws, it was because creation, origin, and the others had already broken through due to the immortality empowerment, and the Daos they represented had naturally transcended. Some were submerged, while others floated on the surface of the river. They wanted to transcend, but they still could not. They struggled bitterly, and the last step was like a chasm. These were all heavenly monarchs and immortal kings. The primordial demon lord, Old Myth, and the others were originally in this group, but they had just received the gate of eternal life empowerment and broke through the shackles of the river of destiny. They were already like the floating stars in the river of destiny that Feng Qingshan saw when he broke through to the grand heavenly realm, hanging high above the river of destiny. Of course, most of the living beings were like fish swimming in the river of destiny. They had not reached their limit yet, and the path ahead was still open, like fish in water. A long river traversed the past and present, covering the Daos of all living beings for 3,000 years. The minor destiny art that Feng Qingshan, Feng Qingxue, and Feng Han used to know was undoubtedly the difference between a firefly and the bright moon. Even after Feng Qingshan and Feng Qingxue obtained the scales of destiny, the great destiny art they used was only 1,000th of the power of the river of destiny. This river of destiny great mystique could be considered a top-notch mystique in the myriad worlds. Whether it was Feng Qingshan's natural mystique, 5-elemental bracelet, 5-elemental law, 5-elemental picture, or other sword-down mystiques, such as the great 5-elemental needles and the great 5-elemental annihilation thunder, none of them could contend against it. Of course, the most important thing was that Feng Qingshan's cultivation was not high, so the power of his mystique was not apparent. While the immortal world power level was only at the grand heavenly realm, the gate of eternal life was still a connate treasure, and the immortal world was also a boundless world. Therefore, they could not be mentioned in the same breath. The power of destiny reigns above the heavens. The power of destiny has existed since time immemorial. In the name of destiny, it seals the heavens and earth and disrupts all senses. The power of destiny shrouds the past, extends to the future, permeates the boundless space and time, and is omnipresent. Light cannot shine through it, and darkness cannot conceal it. Those who attempt to defy destiny will suffer the judgment of destiny. The 3,000 great Daos, destiny reigns supreme. You run through the beginning and end of the universe. Your power is invincible. No one can compare to your greatness. In the name of destiny, you will strip away all divine abilities of those who resist. Chants of fate resounded throughout the immortal king battlefield. The river of fate turned into a dragon and a vine, tempered into steel, softened into a finger. The immense power collided with the timeless Arkansas, chi 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 chi. The timeless arc and the river of fate clashed. It emitted a series of ear-piercing sounds. The battle between the river of fate and the timeless arc wasn't a one-sided battle. Instead, it wrapped around him like a vine. Layer by layer, it resisted little by little. There is nothing in the world that is weaker than water, and the strong can't win. The weak wins the strong, the soft wins the hard, and no one in the world knows it. Unfortunately, the power of the timeless arc was too great. Although it was only at the unparalleled level, it already had the power of a primordial chaos saint. Although it was only the beginning, although it didn't last long, it was already commendable. After a stalemate, Feng Qingshan raised his eyebrows. He didn't want to be entangled. As the saying goes, a long night is full of dreams. Although the immortal world is remote, there are no great worlds around, and there are no experts. But what if he meets a primordial chaos saint who travels all over the heavens? Many times, people turn the tables. Isn't it because their hands and feet are not fast enough? Therefore, he still needs to cut the Gordian knot. Fall, Feng Qingshan said softly. On the timeless arc, a flag rose slowly. A force of destruction and creation swept in all directions, with absolute majesty. Although it looked a little shabby, no one dared underestimate it, because whether it was the Death Scythe or the Chaos Horn, they were all a head shorter in front of it. Although they were of the same grade, it was as if they had seen a king, and they were willing to worship it. Boom! In a flash, a gray divine thunder fell. In that divine thunder, there seemed to be a heaven and earth. A world was born, as if it contained a complete world, with the vast power of a world. With a tearing sound, the river of destiny, which was still wrapped around the timeless arc and weakened the impact force, was suddenly torn apart like a piece of white paper. Good. Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan couldn't help but clap the table and applaud. As expected of the Dutian thunder, it's really amazing. If the Zodion star formation needs to be fully activated to have the power of a primordial chaos strike. Moreover, given the power of the Dutian divine thunder, even a primordial chaos saint would not dare to easily take on this terrifying divine power. When the divine thunder fell, even the chaos would be blasted apart. This was a terrifying divine thunder that was ranked among the best in the myriad worlds of heavens. Good, continue to hit it. Seeing that the river of destiny was torn apart, Fang Qingshan didn't continue to use the shocking thunder flag. It felt like using a cannon to kill a mosquito. After all, although the Gate of Eternal Life was a connate cardinal treasure, it didn't have an artifact spirit and no one to activate it, so it couldn't fully unleash its power. Using the Chaos Horn was enough. Of course, the most important thing was that using the Dutian thunder consumed too much. After the thunder fell, the Eternal Lightning Pool's reserve dropped by 1/5. This also meant that Fang Qingshan could only use 5 Divine Thunder at most. If he still couldn't take down the enemy after that, the Timeless Arc would be destroyed in a short period of time. If there were any unexpected changes in the process, it would be really hard to guard against. As expected, a trump card can't be used easily. Fang Qingshan thought to himself, and then ordered the Thunder Emperor to keep up the good work. The sails fluttered, and the Permitha Bridge strengthened. The Chaos Horn flashed with a terrifying light. The moment the River of Destiny was torn apart, others might still have time to breathe. The old force had just passed, and the new force hadn't been generated yet. However, the Timeless Arc didn't have to worry about this. Or rather, the interval was too short. Ordinary primordial chaos cultivators couldn't catch this flaw at all. As long as the energy in the Eternal Lightning Pool was continuous, it could attack continuously. As fast as lightning, it chased after the stars and the moon. The Timeless Arc charged fiercely towards the Gate of Eternal Life. The Gate of Eternal Life hadn't expected the River of Destiny to be torn apart so easily. This time, it didn't have time to defend before the attack arrived. The Permitha ship was like a rocket traveling at full speed. Its sharp horn collided with the Gate of Eternal Life. Chapter 867. Rumble. This collision directly collided with the body of the Door of Eternal Life. The surrounding void collapsed on the spot, and countless elements were tumbling and roaring. The Chaos Demonic Horn erupted with unparalleled penetrative and destructive power. With the help of the entire Timeless Arc, its destructive power was even more terrifying. When it collided with the Gate of Eternal Life, it did not seem to be at a disadvantage at all. The destructive power of the Chaos Demonic Horn, together with the impact of the warship, was no less destructive than that of the Godslayer. This collision already had the combat power of a mixed essence saint. Anyone below the saint level was a nonentity. In the face of a saint-level attack, even a spiritual treasure, with its sturdy nature, was in danger of being damaged. In the Desolation world, countless spiritual treasures had been damaged during the primeval and ancient tribulations. Wasn't the Sand of Time that Fang Qingshan had obtained in the Quicksand River in the journey to the West world a broken spiritual treasure? If it was an ordinary top-notch primordial spiritual treasure, it would probably be torn apart with a single collision. For example, the 3 spiritual treasures that Fang Qingshan had traded with Luya. Even the connate five-direction flags, the five-direction lotus platform, and the three books of man, heaven, and earth might not be able to defend against it if the user's cultivation was slightly weaker. However, the Gate of Eternal Life was a connate cardinal treasure after all, so it should not be so fragile. It just shook and flew backward after being hit by the timeless arc, creating a series of sparks. Crash, crash, crash. Kill him while he's down. He did not give the Gate of Eternal Life a chance to catch its breath and regroup. The Eternal Life heavenly vessel did not even pause in midair. While the Gate of Eternal Life was still in the midst of flying backwards, the Eternal Life heavenly vessel had already caught up to it, charging forward like a raging bull. Once, twice, thrice, 10 times. If it had only been 1 or 2 times, although the timeless arch collision was powerful, it was just an itch for the Gate of Eternal Life. It would be completely useless. If the interval was longer, it would have reacted and not been so passive. But after 10, 8, or even dozens of collisions, and the collisions were continuous, one after another, even a connate cardinal treasure would not be able to withstand it. The light on the Gate of Eternal Life dimmed, and cracks began to appear on the indestructible body. Even though the core of the Gate of Eternal Life was still unharmed, it was inevitable that the Gate of Eternal Life would suffer irreversible damage if it continued to be bashed without retaliating. At the end of an era, the heavens were destroyed, the great Tao fell, and only fate existed. The door of eternal life, or rather, the origin will of Hongjun Tiandao, seemed to have sensed that it had reached the end of its road. It was initially emotionless, but now it was showing signs of anger. He was the dignified Hongjun Tiandao of the boundless world, and his true body was a connate cardinal treasure. However, he was defeated by a person who was not even a sage to be and was using the timeless arc, which was not even comparable to the door of eternal life, to the point that he could not fight back at all. It was simply a disgrace. Most importantly, even if he couldn't win, he couldn't even escape. He was helpless, but he couldn't just sit and wait for death. Thus, the Gate of Eternal Life thought of a solution. That was the end of the world. He was using the power to destroy the world to fight against Fong Qingshan. It must be known that the immortal world is a boundless world. If a person who takes the way of the world can open up a boundless world, he can directly prove the primordial Tao. Opening up a boundless world can achieve primordial Tao. Destroying such a world, the power can be imagined. Moreover, destruction means good fortune, and nirvana can be reborn. The immortal world has experienced 3,000 eras, and its achievements are complete. In this era, if there is no Fong Qingshan, after the destruction, the immortal world will also reach the time of promotion. At that time, both the origin of the world and the Gate of Eternal Life can be greatly improved. Even if the power of the world destruction still can't destroy Fong Qingshan, but after the improvement of the origin in the body, there's a little more hope for escape and even a chance of winning. At this moment, although the world was destroyed in advance because of Fong Qingshan, but with the addition of the primordial demon lord and other immortal kings, it should not matter. The main thing is that there's no way to do it. If you can't survive the current disaster, how can you talk about the future? Moreover, even if the Gate of Eternal Life does not destroy the world has begun to slowly destroy itself. After all, the collision between the Gate of Eternal Life and the timeless arc is not something that a mere immortal king battlefield can bear. Especially after the destruction of the River of Destiny, the 3,000 great paths that were suppressed by destiny fell into chaos, and the whole immortal world was in chaos. These great paths have been suppressed for many years, and everyone wants to seize this opportunity to transcend. For a time, dragons and snakes rose, and the sky and earth were turned upside down. Therefore, it is necessary to destroy the world or not. It is better to add a fire to help oneself get through the difficulties, and secondly, it is also a way to survive. With the Gate of Eternal Life's heart moved, in an instant, the whole immortal world ushered in an unprecedented great destruction. First of all, the great sun hanging in the heavenly realm had existed for a long time. However, At this moment, as if its energy had been exhausted, it suddenly lost its luster and all its power, and turned into a huge meteor, falling toward the bottomless abyss. As the great sun fell, it was followed by Tai-in, Ziwei, and Zhodian star all fell. For a time, the entire heavenly realm was like the heavenly, devouring demon coffin that the primordial demon lord had used before. The bottomless abyss is the ruins of the immortal world, just like the sea of desolation. On weekdays, this is the place where all filth and darkness are carried. When the world was destroyed, this was the home of everything. So the stars fell and finally fell here. And as the stars fell, they fell into the abyss. Like dominoes, a chain reaction occurred in an instant. First, countless hearts of the abyss began to explode, and mushroom clouds rose one after another. Then, from the beginning of the era to the present, all kinds of bad luck hidden in the bottomless abyss emerged like a volcanic eruption, and then spread like a tide, decaying the void. The heavenly realm is the origin of all heavens and realms. The great sun of the heavenly realm is also the condensation point of all yang qi. Once it falls, the whole world will be dark. This is also a signal. If someone can spread his primordial spirit all over the immortal world, he can clearly see that the great sun that exists in the Xianhuang Great World, the Central Great World, the different space, and countless other worlds have perished one after another. Countless voids began to collapse, and the sound of explosions came to his ears. This explosion is the sound of the beginning of the destruction of the world. Buzz, although the fall of the great sun of the heavenly realm fired the first shot of the destruction of the world, it was the secular world that really collapsed first. First, the Xianhuang Great World, the Sealed Gods Great World, the Central Great World, the Endless World, and other 3,000 great worlds in the lower realms and the blessed paradises of these worlds. Then, there are various different spaces and planes attached to the heavenly realm, such as the Camel Divine Plane, the Pill Realm, and so on. Chapter 868. The immortal world is centered on the heavenly realm. Other Pill Realm, Treasure Realm, Camel God Plane, 3,000 great worlds, and so on are all centered around it. Following the destruction of the worlds below, the Dragon World, Buddha World, and God World, which were even more powerful worlds, were not spared. Finally, there was the heavenly realm and the world beyond worlds. The heavens collapsed and the earth split apart. Dusk descended and the heavens wept blood. Numerous miserable cries resounded through the heavens and the earth. Besides destiny, the cries of the other 3,000 grand Daos and the fundamental wills of the various worlds also resounded. Resentment. At this moment, a wave of extreme resentment burst forth. This is the original will of each world in the immortal world, as well as the original will of the 3,000 great paths. This time, it was for the sake of dealing with Feng Qingshan and also for a better and faster advancement. The Gate of Eternal Life had sacrificed almost everything except the great Tao of Destiny. In this way, one could imagine how great the resentment was. This was a great thousand world. This was especially true for the other 3,000 great Daos. The hatred in their hearts was indescribable. It had been suppressed by the great Tao of Destiny for 3,000 eras, and now that it had finally managed to escape, it had been destroyed by the Gate of Eternal Life before it could even transcend. Not to mention transcending, he wouldn't even be able to live. Obstructing someone from achieving the Tao was absolutely irreconcilable. Fortunately, Mosquito Dowrin had already taken away more than half of the living beings in this world. Otherwise, this resentment and attack would be even stronger. After all, living beings were the foundation of a world, and they were existences favored by the destiny of heaven and earth. Without living beings, this world would either be reborn or would be destroyed. Why would Mosquito Dowrin do this in advance? Actually, it wasn't that he had predicted that the Gate of Eternal Life would use this move. Therefore, he took drastic measures. If he had anticipated this, he wouldn't have given the Gate of Eternal Life the chance to use it. Instead, He knew that the apocalypse was coming. If he did not become a lord of heaven, he would be destroyed in the apocalypse. Moreover, even if it wasn't the epic ending calamity, the battle between Fang Qingshan and the door of eternal life was enough to bring disaster to the innocent bystanders. As the saying goes, saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. Saving these living beings was not only a matter of boundless virtue, it could also reduce the karma of slaughter at the same time. In addition, Fang Qingshan had opened up many small worlds in the Timeless Ark, but the creatures were still far from enough. The land was vast and sparsely populated. If heaven and earth were to give birth to living beings on their own, who knew how long it would take? Moreover, it was clearly beyond his ability to create living beings. Now that there was a being from the boundless world in front of him, how could he miss it? If it was an ordinary day, plundering all the living beings of the great thousand worlds would obviously be rejected by the entire world. Moreover, plundering was not the right way after all, and the living beings that were plundered would also be unwilling. Now that the apocalyptic calamity was imminent, these people didn't need to plunder at all. They would rush over like a flock of ducks. Regardless of whether he accepted living beings or not, Fang Qingshan was already engaged in battle with the gate of eternal life. When these beings entered the Timeless Ark, not only did they enrich the world, but they also accelerated the evolution of the Timeless Arkansas. Moreover, they could be the backup force for Fang Qingshan's believers. If they were all converted into believers, the power it will provided would be quite considerable. The most important thing was that it was just a small effort. The benefits were at stake, but it was effortless. Why not? Therefore, after being brought to the immortal king battlefield by the gate of eternal life, Fang Qingshan secretly let Mosquito Dauren take action, so that when they fought, the fish in the moat would not be affected and create endless slaughter. Although Fang Qingshan and the primordial demon lord and the others fought in the immortal king battlefield, it still couldn't completely isolate the aftermath of their fight. The ancestral Holy King easily tore open the immortal king battlefield with a swing of his axe. Therefore, from that point on, the entire immortal world seemed to be entering the great apocalypse. The original great mountains and rivers were shattered, the earth was dry and cracked, the mountains and rivers collapsed, countless common people and cultivators were full of despair, and their hearts were full of helplessness. And at this moment, suddenly, from the void, a sea-blue pillar of light fell down like raindrops. The lower 3,000 great worlds, alternate dimensions, heavenly realms, each large area had a pillar of light that reached the heavens. From this pillar, there was a reassuring aura, and at the end of these pillars of light were 12 pearls. Inside the pearls were the real world, the sky, the earth, the mountains, the rivers, the flowers, the trees, the birds, and the beasts. 12 calming divine pearls. 12 heavens. At the end of the era, the world is about to be destroyed. Non-heavenly lords, the heavenly 5 decays will come. Coupled with the fight between immortals, mortals will suffer. Life and death will be in an instant. I, Fang Qingshan of the 5 Elements sect, pity that it is not easy for mortals to survive and specially send down the divine light. All living beings, whether human, monster, demon, Buddha, immortal, can enter, receive the divine light, enter the 12 heavens, reproduce inside, and avoid the heavenly 5 decays. Because the timeless ark was to be used to deal with the gate of eternal life, Mosquito Dauren brought out the 12 calming divine pearls. With his cultivation and the fact that he had already opened up the Khanate small world, it was a piece of cake for him to open up the 12 heavens. One must know that when Dipankara opened up the 12 heavens, he was only at the peak of the grand heavenly realm. Mosquito Dauren's majestic voice carried a hint of majesty, and it naturally spread in all directions into the various worlds. At this moment, the living beings in the various worlds were either struggling bitterly, blaming the heavens and others, or in complete despair. Or, when they heard Mosquito Dauren's voice and saw the divine light of guidance that reached the heavens and earth, their faces revealed a stunned expression. But then, countless living beings revealed looks of ecstasy. Not to mention the end of the era. Even now, volcanoes would erupt from time to time, craters would appear in the ground, and rivers would flow in reverse. Other than those with the strength of an immortal king, all living beings desperately hoped for a safe place. As for those with profound cultivation, golden immortals, ancestral immortals, heavenly lords, sovereigns, and so on. Initially, they didn't think much of it, but Mosquito Doran's last sentence was like a clap of thunder in their minds. If it wasn't for Mosquito Doran causing such a huge commotion and the fact that Mosquito Doran's aura was even higher and more profound than that of immortal kings, in addition to the fact that many other forces had besieged the Five Elements sect, all of them had died at the hands of the Five Elements sect. Everyone thought that Mosquito Doran was playing with them. After confirming that Mosquito Doran was not joking, all the experts below the Heaven Monarch realm were overjoyed. The danger in front of them was nothing to them. But the Celestial Decay 5 was certain death. Now that they heard that they could avoid immortal decay, how could they not rush over like a flock of ducks? Not to mention ordinary people, even those who had enmity with the Five Elements sect were tempted. Good. As long as you enter the 12 heavens, you won't have to die. Let's go. Everyone, let's go quickly. Anything unexpected might happen if we delay. Let's enter the 12 heavens first. Many thanks to the Paragon of 5 Elements. May the Paragon of 5 Elements be everlasting and indestructible. Chapter 869. It is better to be a dog in peace than a man in chaos. Perhaps for some ambitious people, the times make heroes in troubled times. For people with profound cultivation, they don't care much and can sit back and watch the wind and clouds. However, for most people, no one is willing to face big changes. Not only because they are not used to it, but also because a little carelessness can endanger their lives. It is better to live than to die. Therefore, although many people don't know about the great calamity of the end of the era, they see the world getting more and more chaotic. From time to time, volcanoes may erupt around them, the earth will crack, meteorites will fall overhead, and there will be space cracks in front of them, at a time when they may die any time. Almost everyone wanted to have a place that was like a paradise. When they doze off, they have a pillow. At this time, Mosquito Doran opened the 12 heavens and released the light of guidance. People from other worlds may still hesitate. People from the Black-Yellow Great World heard that it was Fong Qingshan from the Five Elements sect. Without saying a word, almost everyone, from the immortals to the mortals who have not yet broken through the magical powers, packed up their most valuable belongings as fast as possible. They took all the things that they could take with them and threw away the things that they could not take with them. They rushed to the light of guidance as fast as they could. Although the Black-Yellow Great World has been renovated by Fong Qingshan, even if it is not as prosperous as it was in ancient times, it is better than other 3,000 great worlds, especially the Sun and Moon Void, the Ice Raging Flame Array, and the Yin and Yang Dust Array, which stabilized the world. At first, there was not much problem, but since it was Fong Qingshan who said it in the headquarters of the Five Elements sect, naturally no one doubted it, and everyone believed it unconditionally. People from other worlds, after the initial surprise, also shouted with excitement. Their faces, which were originally desperate, suddenly exuded the light of hope. It was as if they saw a ray of light in the darkness. That feeling was enough to move anyone. Faced with the hope of survival, everyone exerted all their strength, holding their breaths as they ran toward the light of guidance. As for whether or not they were worried that Fong Qingshan was lying to them and deliberately mystifying things, this thought was immediately thrown to the back of his mind. After all, the entire immortal world can hear the voice of Mosquito Doran and see the light of guidance. Moreover, they were like drowning people grabbing onto the last life-saving straw. How could they let go? How bad could it be? Take pity on the people of my world. They are full of worries. Chant my name, and you may enter the heavens. Although Mosquito Doran had sent down many divine lights, The world was too big, and there were too many people. Moreover, because of Fang Qingshan's battle, natural disasters could happen at any time. In addition, when faced with the hope of survival, humanity was exposed. All of them rushed towards the light of guidance, pushing and shoving each other. Some even went on a killing spree, paving the way with the blood of anyone who stood in their way. Mosquito Dauren spoke again in order to avoid unnecessary casualties and to harvest the wish power. Paragon of 5 elements. Paragon of 5 elements. Paragon of 5 elements. For a time, the voice of Paragon of 5 elements resounded throughout Immortal World, like a great river flowing in reverse. The power of wish surged toward Taoist when like hundreds of rivers returning to the sea. Of course, Mosquito Dauren, who has benefited from it, will not burn the bridge after crossing the river. Whenever someone recites the name of Fang Qingshan, Mosquito Dauren will directly release the divine light. Fortunately, Mosquito Dauren's cultivation base has broken through the great heavenly immortal realm, with countless doppelgangers and infinite magical power. Otherwise, I'm afraid I really can't do this. Mosquito Dauren's movements are very fast, almost a world, a plane swept. Not long after, although there are still some forces under the protection of the Immortal King and some other reasons, some people did not come in, but the creatures of most of the great thousand world began to overflow the 12 heavens. For a time, the entire immortal world fell into silence. Except for the laws of nature, there was almost no activity of living beings. Shortly after Mosquito Dauren took away the living beings, the gate of eternal life began to sacrifice the heavens, and the real great calamity of extinction came, and the 5 decay of heaven and man came. At this moment, except for the people of the Immortal King, everyone, even those who have achieved the Lord of Heaven, was found by the 5 decay of heaven and man. Even the people who were received by Fang Qingshan in the 12 heavens were no exception. But a strange aura penetrated into the calm, sea divine pearl and descended on the people who were received. Not good. The 5 decay of heaven and man has come. Damn it, God. We have already left and still won't let us go. Paragon of 5 elements. Help. Many of the living beings who entered the 12 heavens, although they left Immortal World because they did not transcend, their life imprint still exists in Immortal World. Now that the world is destroyed and decayed, they felt it, and their life immediately decayed. Why can't the immortal golden immortal transcend, but only the great heavenly immortal can? It is because the immortal golden immortal is because of the world. If the world is immortal, they are naturally immortal. Even if the world decays, the golden immortal is not spared. As for the great heavenly immortal, it is said that all time and space are eternal, undying, and indestructible. That is because breaking through to the great heavenly immortal means severing karma, escaping fate, and returning everything to one's own body. Even if the world is destroyed, they will be fine. If it was a great desolate world's David Decay 5, then I would have to retreat. However, this is merely a great thousand worlds of yours. Most of the forces here are tied down by my true body, yet you still want to flaunt your might? Mosquito Dauren sneered. Wash the world with blood, burn with karmic fire, sever karma and fate. Mosquito Dauren sat cross-legged, solemn and dignified as he sat at the center of the 12 heavens. He first unleashed the boundless sea of blood, and then used it to ignite the karmic fire. Next, he attached the karmic fire to the walls of the heavens, turning it into an inescapable net, and used the karmic fire to burn the 5 decay of heaven and man suddenly. It could be seen that the 5 decay of heaven and man that had entered, or was about to enter, encountered the karmic fire, and suddenly it was like dry firewood adding oil to the fire. And those who had been found by the 5 decay of heaven and man, with the burning of the karmic fire, could not avoid it, could not dispel it, and could only watch helplessly as they walked towards death. And at this moment, they finally came back to life. The Great Tribulation is also a great opportunity. Those who were trapped under the Lord of Heaven and earth, and even the Lord of Heaven, not only stopped decaying, but also got rid of fate. They also took the opportunity to break the fate and shackles, and became the Lord of Heaven, the immortal King. Just when the people in the 12 heavens were happy and grateful to get rid of fate and improve their cultivation. Outside the 12 heavens, the other immortal world creatures who did not accept the protection of Mosquito Dowren were in bad luck at this moment. In the past, the great tribulation of the immortal world wanted to accumulate strength. So as long as they reached the Lord of Heaven, they could get rid of the 5 decay of heaven and man. However, this time, in order to obtain more power to deal with Feng Qingshan, he had risked his life to fight back. The 3,000 great paths have been sacrificed, and the Lord of Heaven is naturally no exception. Chapter 870. Impossible. How is this possible? Why? Why does a heavenly Lord have the 5 decrepit angels? I don't want to die. I don't want to die. The heavenly lords who previously scoffed at Mosquito Dowren's offer of protection were now full of regret. They didn't know that the door of eternal life didn't play by the rules. The 5 decrepit angels didn't include the heavenly lord's physique. But now, they couldn't even protect themselves. Sadly, no matter how unwilling, regretful, and angry they were, it was useless. After all, the weak couldn't win against the strong. Who asked them to be weak? They were pawns and should have known this day would come. Not just heavenly lords, but immortal kings did the same. It was just that their cultivation levels were high and they could defend themselves. 5 elements, please save us. 5 elements, please save us. 5 elements, please save us. At this moment, at the critical moment of life and death, those who hated Feng Qingshan and the 5 Elements house, as well as those who didn't want to lose face, all begged Mosquito Dowren for help. However, medicine does not cure diseases. Buddha helps those who are fated. Since they missed this opportunity, this was their fate. Why would Mosquito Dowren help them again? He wasn't a nanny who could be summoned and left at will. Plus, some of them hated him and the 5 Elements house. It was already nice of him not to fight against these people, yet they wanted him to save them. Did they think he was a saint? Therefore, no matter how much they called for him, Feng Qingshan turned a blind eye. Seeing this scene, all the creatures that were taken into the 12 heavens by Taoist suddenly felt a sense of superiority and luck. At the same time, their gratitude almost reached the peak, and they all chanted the name of the supreme of 5 elements. Without comparison, one wouldn't know how to cherish. Though they were grateful to Feng Qingshan, they were only grateful for their lives. But now, the once high and mighty heavenly lords could only watch their lifespans slip away, their bodies decay, and their primordial spirits decline. Even immortal kings were struggling. Many of them, on the other hand, were not even fairy immortals, yet they could live well. He could even break through his cultivation and continue to pursue the great Tao. How could they not feel superior and rejoice? Sometimes, the choice was extremely important. A single thought could decide life or death. Everyone couldn't help but become even more devout. For a time, a vast and surging wave of wish energy erupted, and it illuminated the entire world in a dazzling and resplendent manner. This was something that Mosquito Dowren did not expect. It was a pleasant surprise. He hadn't expected that refusing to help these heavenly monarchs and immortal kings would reap such rewards. Although they were all wish power, it was clear that the more devout believers' offerings were of a far higher quality than ordinary wish power. 1 is worth 100. Not to mention the Deva decay, the gate of eternal life sacrificed the heavens and detonated the 3,000 great Taos. The accumulation of 3,000 epochs was released at this moment. Boundless resentment and destructive power turned into a terrifying bolt of divine thunder, which took on a spiraling state and shot toward the timeless arc at an unbelievable speed. It was so fast that it was immeasurable. Everywhere it went, it left behind a scene of great destruction. Almost in an instant, it appeared outside the timeless Arkansas. And all of this, from the beginning until now, was but the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. It was so fast that Fang Qingshan didn't even have time to interrupt it. In a hurry, he could only defend. Seeing this, Fang Qingshan and the Thunder Emperor's eyes immediately revealed a hint of solemnity. Deja vu. This scene was very similar to when Fang Qingshan collected the shocking Thunder Flag in the West Sea in the journey to the West Great World. The destructive lightning that was formed from the sacrifice of almost the entire vast thousand domains was so powerful that it was almost on par with the Du Tian God lightning that had almost killed Fang Qingshan. It was even more powerful than the Du Tian thunder that Fang Qingshan had used the timeless arc to activate the shocking Thunder Flag. Although things were different now, Fang Qingshan and the Thunder Emperor still didn't dare to take such an attack lightly. Slash. Without thinking, the Death Scythe was the first to be taken out. The sharpness that could slaughter the world and the strangeness of harvesting souls. The ferocious sawtooth, with a terrifying intent of death and destruction, slashed out. It was extremely sharp, as if it was going to split the entire void. The blade light locked onto the divine thunder and slashed out. It was a solid head-on collision. Up and down, all four directions, don't move. Since ancient times, freeze. Time and space stop. After the Death Scythe, the Thunder Emperor spoke calmly once again. He knew that although the Death Scythe was stronger than before, it was still not enough to deal with the destructive divine thunder that was comparable to the Du Tian thunder that he had seen for the first time. Therefore, almost without hesitation, he took out the bridge of the opposite shore and the passing water lamp. The bridge of the opposite shore was a spatial treasure that could freeze the earth, wind, water, and fire. The passing water lamp was a time treasure that could freeze time like water. A long bridge could be seen crossing the void and suppressing all directions. A bright lamp shot out a dazzling divine light, and the power of time circulated. In an instant, the surrounding void seemed to have been paused. Space and time were frozen, except for the Death Scythe, which was still slashing towards the destructive divine thunder. Even the destructive divine thunder, which had been formed by sacrificing half of the great thousand worlds, was forcibly frozen for a moment. It was frozen in midair and couldn't move. Great void armor, defend! Then, a vast amount of eternal divine power was frantically injected into the great void armor. In an instant, the entire timeless arc seemed to be donned with a layer of armor. It formed a thick and heavy enchantment that guarded the outside. It exuded an ancient aura. After taking out a few treasures, Fang Qingshan and the Thunder Emperor felt a little more at ease. However, they didn't let their guard down. Even a lion would give its all to a rabbit. Furthermore, this was a divine thunder that could break through countless defenses and create destructive power. It could even destroy the world. Therefore, Fang Qingshan and the Thunder Emperor continued to work hard. They activated the Thunder Gathering Pagoda and the eternal pool of electricity. They also took out the diagram of the Yellow River of Nine Bends array. In an instant, the array split the heavens and the earth, and the Yellow River swayed. Chilly winds howled and black fog filled the air, obscuring the sun and moon. It was slow and indistinct. Tragic aura filled the air, and haze engulfed the ground. A funnel floated above the divine thunder and spun continuously. It stripped away traces of destructive power and weakened the divine thunder. Crash! Following that, the Thunder Monarch steered the warship and charged forward. The chaotic, demonic horn shone with a glass-like golden light. It instantly attacked the divine thunder that had broken free from its shackles and continued to fall. Kacha! Whoosh! There was no light in the world. All light was devoured. The void at the center of the collision was like fragile glass. It shattered into countless void fragments on the spot and shot out in all directions. Even the timeless arc couldn't help but be pushed back. Chapter 871. As expected of the Du Tian thunder, which was comparable to the first release of the shocking Thunder Flag. Under the thunder, it could destroy all laws. If it were not for the strength of the timeless arc, if it were a sage to be, Without the connate five-direction flags and the three books of heaven, earth, and man, they would have been smashed into pieces. Even now, the timeless ark was far stronger than when it collected the shocking thunder flag. After a few collisions, the great void armor was broken, and cracks appeared on the timeless Arkansas. However, without the use of a Jodion star formation, or even the shocking thunder flag, not only was the damage not as serious as before, but the basic purpose had been achieved. After going through a few attacks and defensive interceptions, Wang Chong's group finally arrived. The divine lightning of destruction had finally been worn down to the last 70 to 80%. Fall. In the end, Fang Qingshan directly sacrificed the Dutian thunder. Now that it was time to settle the matter, Fang Qingshan naturally did not hesitate to use his trump card. Moreover, 2 bolts of Dutian God, lightning, were released at once. The first one directly destroyed the rest of the sacred thunder of destruction, and the remaining power fell on the gate of eternal life, interrupting his promotion. Yes, the gate of eternal life was promoting. The reason why he sacrificed the entire immortal world. One was to use the power of destruction of the universe to fight against Fang Qingshan. The second was that one would be able to obtain immeasurable good fortune after being placed in a hopeless situation. Use it to nurture himself and improve himself. The gate of eternal life's wishful thinking was very good. Using the power of destruction to deal with Fang Qingshan, even if it could not deal with him, it could buy time. Using the power of creation in the destruction to improve himself. Once the promotion was successful, whether it was revenge or leaving, he could attack and retreat. The only thing he did not expect was the true strength of Fang Qingshan and the timeless Arkansas. He did not expect that even the sacred thunder of destruction of the universe, which could destroy everything, could not destroy Fang Qingshan and the timeless Arkansas. It did not even manage to buy time for himself to promote. What a pity, although it was a pity that he had cruelly interrupted the advancement of a primordial cardinal treasure. It should be noted that even a connate numinous treasure's advancement was difficult without great creation, let alone a connate cardinal treasure's advancement. However, Fang Qingshan did not regret it at all. Even though the gate of eternal life would be able to reap even greater benefits after it leveled up, it was still not enough. Mosquito Dorn's breakthrough would be smoother. However, the prerequisite was that he could suppress the gate of eternal life after advancing. Regarding this, Fang Qingshan dared not guarantee it. In the end, the timeless arc was only at the unparalleled level. Once the door of eternal life leveled up, it would not be able to form a crushing force. It would be easy for the treasure to escape. They might even threaten and suppress him. Wouldn't that be like drawing water with a sieve and suffering a double loss? It would be best if he could get his hands on it. If it couldn't fall into his hands, so what if it was a Chaos Supreme treasure? Therefore, Fang Qingshan made his move without hesitation. The second bolt of divine lightning struck the gate of eternal life. Rumble. Almost in an instant, the Du Tian godly thunder ferociously bombarded the gate of eternal life in an incomparably violent manner. Along the way, the space around it began to distort, crumble, collapse, and evaporate at a speed visible to the naked eye. The entire gate of eternal life shot out heavenly light. Vast amounts of energy exploded in an attempt to destroy the lightning. Sadly, it was not enough. Having its advancement interrupted, the gate of eternal life was already suffering a strong backlash. On top of that, though the gate of eternal life did not change, now that the universe has been destroyed, it was no longer a Hongjun Tiandao treasure. It was merely a normal connate treasure. Plus, how dominating was the Dutian thunder? At this moment, an infinite amount of heavenly light exploded and flickered. Like rain pattering on a banana leaf, the sound of metal rang and echoed. Before long, the heavenly light was torn apart and the gate of eternal life was flung away. On its surface, there were countless cracks. Nice! Seeing this scene, Fang Qingshan, who was already prepared, immediately cheered in his heart. Suppress. Then, The Zodion star array swept out and dragged the gate of eternal life into it. The 365 main stars and 14,800 secondary stars intertwined with each other, forming an inescapable net at lightning speed, completely binding the gate of eternal life. Then it was dragged into the timeless arc and completely suppressed. This way, the gate of eternal life would not be able to escape even if it was at its peak, let alone a damaged gate of eternal life. Phew! At this point, Fang Qingshan finally let out a sigh of relief. Nice, haha. After cultivating for so many years and planning so many times, Fang Qingshan finally saw the hope of immortality. He could not help but let out a long laugh. I have achieved my Tao. Mosquito, Daoran even shouted out what Dipankara had said when he obtained the Dinghai Pearl. However, while they had both achieved Tao, the two could not be mentioned in the same breath. Dipankara had only achieved the Tao of Quasi-Sage, while Mosquito Daoran had achieved the Tao of Mixed Yuan. Come! Fang Qingshan waved his hand and retrieved the 5 elements array diagram that was hidden in the void. The primordial demon lord, Old Myth, and the others were still trapped inside. Fang Qingshan was in a good mood and did not kill them. Instead, he suppressed them in the timeless arc's heavenly prison. First, he would erase their temperament, and then he would purify them. These people were heaven-defying geniuses, trapped dragons rising to the heavens. Their futures were bright, and if enlightened, whether it was to provide wish power or to serve as subordinates, they would be the best choice. As Fang Qingshan suppressed the gate of eternal life, Fang Han felt a sense of loss and a sense of relief. He felt lost because, as a weapon spirit, the gate of eternal life was in Fang Qingshan's hands and he naturally could not get it again. He felt relieved because he was completely free from the shackles of the gate of eternal life and had unlimited possibilities in the future. Maybe it was good, maybe it was bad. Eternal destruction. It's time for me to continue searching for my Tao, Fang Qingshan said leisurely. This was the first world after Fang Qingshan reincarnated. He grew up here, metamorphosed, and established the foundation of his great Tao, even though he did not stay here for too long. Although he did not stay for long, he still had some nostalgia, some reluctance, and more yearning for the future. His future path was clear. He would walk through the heavens and cultivate while looking at the scenery along the way. As for the 5 Elements sect, Fang Qingxue, Fang Han, and the others. However, Fang Qingshan respected their own wishes. They were willing to cultivate in peace. There were many worlds in the timeless Arkansas. If they were willing to roam the heavens, he would not stop them other than providing some convenience. The path was for them to walk. How they chose was up to them. In the end, most of the 5 Elements sect people were willing to enter the world of the timeless arc to cultivate. A small number of people wanted to roam the heavens. Therefore, Fang Qingshan sent them into the ruined city to travel to other worlds. He himself went to the desolation world through the heavens chessboard, which had opened long ago but had never dared to go. Chapter 872. In the universe, not to mention the smaller, similar mustard seed in storage space. Even the larger grotto heavens and primordial world were as numerous as the stars in the sky and the grains of sand in the Ganges River. There were many in the chaos world. The heavens were so big that even primordial chaos saints and Hongjun Tiandao could not pry into it. Perhaps only those who had reached the great Tao realm could understand it. The major world of desolation was created in a chaos world by Pan Gu, who was comparable to the great Tao realm. The chaos world was like a chicken's egg. Pan Gu was born in it. He was 10,000 years old when the chaos world was created. There were demon gods who blocked his path and surrounded Pan Gu. Unexpectedly, Pan Gu was mighty. He stepped on the creation green lotus, held the heaven-splitting divine axe in one hand, and held the Dutian thunder in the other. He killed 3,000 demon gods and became desolation. The Yang was the heaven, the Yin was the earth. Pan Gu was among them. 9 changes in a day. God in the heaven, sage in the earth. The heaven sun was 10 feet high, the earth sun was 10 feet thick, and Pangu's day was 10 feet long. He lived for 10,000 years. The heaven was extremely high, the earth was extremely deep, and Pangu was extremely long. Pangu's Tao was transformed, and the creation desolation was created. The Chi formed the wind and clouds, the sound was thunder, the left I was the sun, the right I was the moon, and the limbs and 5 bodies were the 4 poles and 5 mountains. The blood was the rivers, the tendons were the earth, the muscles were the soil, the hair was the stars, the skin was the plants, the teeth were the stones, the essence was the pearls and jade, the sweat was the rain, and the insects in the body were affected by the wind. There were also many chaos treasures, chaos spiritual treasures, spirit roots, Pangu, the flesh and blood of the demon gods, the primordial spirit, the merit of creation, and the chi of heaven and earth. They carried the power of the nomological laws and gave birth to new life. The desolation was completed. Pangu was gone, but his might shook the world. One had to know that even after the dragon and phoenix experienced the Great Tribulation, it was difficult to climb the mountain near Mount Buzhou. Even a Grand Luo would find it difficult to reach the top. Later on, as the world became more and more perfect, Hongjun Tiandao intentionally suppressed and weakened Pangu's influence. In addition to the successive wars, Pangu's remaining power dissipated, and Taoism and heaven became one. It was only then that Mount Buzhou was completely opened. Now that Pangu had just died, his aura spread across the land of desolation. Not to mention ordinary living beings, even Khanate gods couldn't withstand it. One had to know that this person was comparable to the great Tao and could slay 3,000 demon gods. Among them, there were many who were as powerful as Hongjun Tiandao. Even if he didn't attack, just his aura alone wasn't something that ordinary beings could withstand. In addition, even with the 3 treasures of opening heaven and earth suppressing the desolation, there was still a large amount of primal chaos chi in the world. His honey is my arsenic. To chaos fiend celestials, or primordial chaos experts, chaos spirit chi was a daily cultivation item, just like how postnatal spirit chi was to ordinary cultivators. However, primordial chaos spirit chi was highly toxic to those who were not fiend celestials or primordial chaos experts. Once they came into contact with it, they would be like maggots in one's bones, let alone absorb and refine it. As such, the world could only slowly adapt, adjust, and evolve. After the heaven-opening tribulation, Pangu's aura gradually either dissipated or shrank to the vicinity of Mount Buzhou. Primordial chaos spirit chi slowly transformed into Khanate spirit chi, and living beings appeared in the world one after another. The quiet world began to bustle with activity. However, even after the heaven-opening tribulation, the killing aura from Pangu's slaying of 3,000 demon gods still filled the world. The first batch of living beings were born from the combination of this killing aura and the corpses or remnant souls of the fallen chaos fiend celestials during the heaven-opening tribulation. These fierce beasts didn't have high spiritual intelligence, but their bodies were strong. After all, they were formed from the flesh and blood of chaos fiend celestials. Inheriting the heaven-opening evil chi and the remnant will of chaos fiend celestials, they only knew how to kill and did not understand the will of the heavens. They destroyed everything they could, causing the whole world to be in a foul atmosphere. Fortunately, the 3 clans of the Desolation Continent came into being. The Dragon Clan that lived in the 4 seas, the Chilants that dominated the land, and the Phoenixes that soared in the sky. In order to fight against the fierce beasts, the Dragon Clan gathered the Scale Clans, the Chilants gathered the beasts, and the Phoenixes gathered the birds. Because they had a common enemy, the 3 clans worked together with some Khanate gods, Hongjun, Qinquan, Yin, and Yang, and 5 elements. Although the fierce beasts were strong, they were like a sheet of loose sand. Besieged by the 3 clans, they eventually retreated from the Desolation Continent. Thus, once the heaven-opening evil beast tribulation was over, the three clans took advantage of the situation and rose to power. The three clans dominated the world. In the beginning, the three clans had to lick their wounds and digest their gains. Naturally, they lived in harmony. However, there was no room for two tigers on one mountain, and there was no room for others to sleep beside one's bed. Gradually, the conflict between the three clans erupted. At first, it was on a small scale, but soon it led to the conflict between the Dragon, Phoenix, and Qilin clans. After all, the Desolation Continent was only so big, and there were only so many resources. The more you got, the less I got. Especially after knowing that the Desolation Continent could be unified, they could attain the mixed essence Tao. In addition, some people secretly added fuel to the fire. Soon, the three clans were completely incompatible. Yes, some people, not just the demon lord Ro. Other than Ro, there was also the group of Kane gods that seemed to have no desires. It was easy to understand why Ro was causing trouble. The more chaotic the Desolation Continent was, the better it was. Demons wreaked havoc on the people. The original meaning of demons was to disturb, destroy, and obstruct. The other Kane gods added fuel to the fire because they did not want to see the three clans dominate, because then it would be difficult for them to be alone, just like when the sorcerer and demon war dominated, except for a few people, such as Zheng Yuanzi and Ming He. Even Kunpeng was forced to join the demon tribe by Emperor Jun and the others to participate in the Great War of Sorcerer and Demon. Even sages had to retreat when the witch and demon race was at its peak. Therefore, almost no one was willing to see the Dragon and Phoenix clans, which were like the sun, moon, and purple myrtle stars. As a result, the Dragon clan's descendants were assassinated today. The Qilin clan's geniuses died mysteriously tomorrow, and the Phoenix clan's prodigies disappeared without a trace the day after. All the signs pointed to the fact that it was all done by the other party. For a moment, the entire Desolation Continent's atmosphere became tense. Dirt piled up into a mountain, sand piled up into a tower. After many small conflicts piled up, the three clans finally reached the point where they had to fight. The Dragon and Phoenix clans, as well as the Scaled Armor clans, Flying Beast clans, and Walking Beast clans that they represented, started a war that swept through the thousands of clans in the Desolation Continent. The four seas, the continent, and the sky, there was no place that was a paradise. In the beginning, there was restraint, but the more they fought, the more their minds were blinded. Chaos. The Desolation Continent was in complete chaos. The three clans started a war for no reason. Even the Dragon Ancestor, the Phoenix Ancestor, and the Qilin Ancestor could no longer control the situation. They could only be forced by the general trend and fight on. Once they started, they could not stop. Even if you were clear-headed, you had no choice but to fight, because the other party would not rest until you were dead. For a time, the Desolation Continent's blood flowed like a river, and corpses piled up like a mountain. The malevolent aura was so strong that it dyed the entire sky blood red. Anyone below the grand heavenly realm who entered would instantly become a killing machine. That was when Feng Qingshan arrived at the Desolation Continent. Chapter 873. In the void, a shooting star streaked across the sky. It was as fast as lightning. If one didn't pay attention, they wouldn't have noticed it at all. However, for those with profound cultivation, a single thought from the heavens could change the fate of the heavens. The moment the heavenly secrets changed, his heart would sense it. On an unknown island in the East China Sea, there was a willow tree the size of Mount Buzhou that was constantly absorbing the primordial chaos chi. The oppressive aura emanating from his body made it impossible for anyone to resist. Even if the three clan leaders were to stand in front of him, they would still seem very small. However, in terms of aura, it seemed a little weak, strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Looking at the traces of axes and lightning strikes on the tree, it was obvious that the tree had been severely injured and was recuperating. He was the chaotic space, fiend celestial Yang Mei, who had survived the great tribulation of creation. Once the heaven's secret moved, he could sense it. However, this had nothing to do with him. Moreover, the most important thing now was to heal his injuries and make a breakthrough. Otherwise, after Hongjun Tiandao was born, he would be in trouble. Therefore, he merely shook it a little and didn't do anything else. It was none of his business, and he would just sit back and watch. Yujing Mountain, Purple Cloud Palace. There was a Taoist with white hair and a ruddy complexion. He had white eyebrows and a beard. If it wasn't for the fact that he lived in the desolation Celestial Mountain, those who didn't know him would think that he was an ordinary old man. He sat cross-legged on a cattail hassock with a tattered jade archive above his head. His aura was indistinct. At a certain moment in time, the Taoist awoke from his trance, and he opened his eyes. A river of stars flowed within the depths of his eyes, while the scenes of all things being born and destroyed and various other profundities floated up into appearance. A great calamity is about to rise. Right now, the world is changing, but I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. An anomaly? He muttered. I hope it won't affect my great Tao. Sighing, the Taoist once again closed his eyes and continued his cultivation. In the depths of Mount Meru, for heavenly treasured swords stood erect like pillars supporting the heavens. Sword Chi soared into the sky, the baleful aura condensing into clouds, actually not the slightest bit weaker than the baleful aura outside. On a 12th-stage black lotus sat a lawless devil who looked down on the world, toying with people's hearts, confusing Hongjun Tiandao, and bringing chaos to the people. This person was the devil Ancestor Ro, who was as famous as Hongjun. He naturally felt the changes in the heavenly secrets. Different from Hongjun's worries, he only wished for the world to be in chaos. To him, the more variables there were, the more chaotic the heavenly secrets were, the more advantageous it would be for him. Chaos, the more chaotic it is, the better. It's best if the world is bathed in blood and demons run wild, turning the whole of desolation into an ancient demonic domain. Ha ha. Other than the three of them, the ancestral dragon, the celestial phoenix, the yin-yang, and the reverse patriarch had also sensed it. However, even if they weren't, with the timeless arc, the primordial violet cloud, and the all-heavens chessboard ability to conceal the heavenly secrets, it would be impossible for them to calculate anything. In addition, they all had their own plans and couldn't be distracted. In the end, they could only give up. I never expected it to come so early. Even the great Dragon Phoenix Tribulation and the Taoist Fiend War have yet to occur. Entering the desolation, Fang Qingshan felt the murderous aura that was like a black cloud pressing down on the city, and his expression changed. He had just experienced the great calamity of the end of the era in a mortal world. The murderous aura there, even if it was condensed into something like destruction, compared with the murderous aura in the sky of desolation, it was like the difference between a firefly and a bright moon, but the difference between the two was unreasonable. It was not just the quantity, but also the quality. The ancient Dragon Phoenix Tribulation, the Vicious Beast Tribulation, and the Taoist Fiend Battle. The intensity of the murderous aura was unimaginable. If it weren't for his profound, primordial spirit realm and the protection of the treasure in his body, he would have been blinded by the murderous aura and fallen into the great calamity. Good heavens, it's worthy of being called the infinite calamity, the first ancient calamity. It's really amazing. Fang Qingshan's expression changed as he felt the murderous aura surging towards him. He hurriedly took out the all-heavens chessboard, released the golden light of merit to protect his primordial spirit, and then sighed. He had experienced the great God-confirmant tribulation, but the great God-confirmant tribulation was inferior to this. The reason for this was naturally because the Dragon Phoenix tribulation had swept through the entire desolation. The great God-confirmant tribulation was limited to the three sects and the human race. Of course, the reason why Fang Qingshan had the illusion that the great God-confirmant tribulation was not as good as the Dragon and Phoenix tribulation was only because of the final battle between the sages. Because he knew his own limits and had other plans, he did not participate. The great calamity is good. It's really a heaven-sent opportunity. Mosquito Dowrin sensed the changes in the great calamity, but his eyes lit up. This was a guy who wanted the world to be in chaos, just like Ro. Moreover, he cultivated the Tao of blood and the Tao of slaughter. The more chaotic the world was, the faster his cultivation would improve. Moreover, only in chaos could he fish in troubled waters. Thinking about the treasure vault of the three ancient races, Mosquito Dowrin couldn't help but immediately covet it. Compared to the witch and demon clans, the dragon and phoenix clans only lacked the clan protection formation and top combat power. After all, in this era, even Daozu hadn't become a sage yet. The cultivation levels of the ancestral dragon, the heavenly phoenix, and the others naturally hadn't reached the half-step sage level. Be it the dragon race's 10,000 dragons worshipping array, the phoenix race's all birds worshipping array, or the Chilan race's boundless beasts array, there was clearly a huge gap between them and the three ultimate arrays of desolation. However, it was not that the three races didn't have any advantages over the witch and demon clans. At this moment, it was the beginning of the world. Although there were treasures everywhere, there were at least several times more than in the future. Apart from some special missions, numinous treasures, spirit roots, and numinous treasures that had yet to be fully nurtured, or even top-notch treasures, the three races were spread all over the world in desolation. Just thinking about it made one's heart surge. Moreover, Fong Qingshan guessed that the reason why Hong Jun could take out so many treasures during the Purple Cloud Palace's distribution of treasures was definitely because they had robbed the treasure vaults of the three races. Otherwise, it would take a lot of time and energy to collect the treasures one by one in desolation. As for the saying that treasures would fall from the sky while sitting at home, that was just wishful thinking. Although Hong Jun was the chosen Dao integration person by Hong Jun Tian Dao, it was impossible for numinous treasures to come to him from time to time. Why did you come out? Fong Qingshan raised his eyebrows. Shouldn't this guy be working hard to devour the top-notch connate numinous treasures of the three races, digest the resources, break through his cultivation level, and then devour the door of eternal life to prepare to break through to primordial chaos? Why'd he come out at this time? Difficult. Upon hearing Fong Qingshan's question, Mosquito Doran's excited expression turned bitter. What's wrong? An ominous feeling rose in Fong Qingshan's heart when he saw that. There aren't enough resources, Mosquito Doran said, a little embarrassed. Haha, you're joking with me, right? Fong Qingshan chuckled and asked, pretending to be relaxed. Do I look like I'm joking? Mosquito Doran spread his hands. How is that possible? Fong Qingshan fixed his gaze on him for a while and almost jumped up and roared. Three top-notch connate numinous treasures, the treasures from the primordial demon lord and the others, and the treasures contained in the gate of eternal life. How could they not help Mosquito Doran break through? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.